Chapter 43-32. It was rare that during this period of time, Heartwarming Island was the same as Lufing Forest. The miasma happened to be dissipating. Their luck was good. They didn't even need to take the pills that were specially used to resist the miasma. A ship is coming. A ship is coming. We're saved. We're saved. Before the cargo ship docked, Lin Yi heard children shouting in the distance. Then, a group of people quickly gathered at the dock. There were men and women, old and young, and all of them had a happy smile on their faces. What's going on? Lin Yi couldn't help but wonder. There weren't a lot of people gathered at the dock, there were only about 100 or so people, and they all looked like normal people. There weren't even many Sky-class masters, let alone Golden Core masters. There weren't even many Sky-class masters, let alone Foundation establishment. Whether it was the true Segment C area or the luxuriant Arc C area, they were all chaotic and ownerless places. Lin Yi had always thought that the people who could live here should be powerful cultivators, and the weakest should be a Foundation establishment stage expert. He didn't expect that there were only ordinary people here. It seemed that at most, it could only be regarded as a small tribe of cultivators. This situation was really beyond Lin Yi's expectations. When the cargo ship slowly docked, an imposing middle-aged man walked out from the crowd below. He stood on the deck and cupped his hands and asked Lin Yi, "I'm Fong Family Village of Heartwarming Island, the owner of the village, Fong Bai Wu. May I ask if your ship is equal to escort agency?" Lin Yi's eyes suddenly narrowed slightly. This Fong Bai Wu's momentum was condensed, and his strength couldn't be seen through even with his golden finger. He was actually a nascent soul stage expert. Sure enough, to be able to survive in this chaotic sea area, even if it was just a small tribe of cultivators, he absolutely couldn't be underestimated. Lin Yi intuitively felt that this person's strength should be considered extraordinary even among the nascent soul stage experts. Yes. I'm Lin Yi, an escort from Equal to Escort Agency. Greetings to Owner Fong. Lin Yi jumped off the ship. He cupped his hands and bowed. It's been a long journey. Young hero Ling, you must have worked hard. Would it be possible for you to invite the other escorts down to meet me so that I can express my gratitude in person? Fong Bai Wu said politely with a smile. Manor Lord Fong, to be honest, I'm the only escort. Lin Yi shook his head with a bitter smile. Ah. But there is clearly another person on the ship. Fong Bai Wu suddenly felt strange. He was a nascent soul stage expert. The people on the ship could not escape his perception. Moreover, this escort was worth a fortune. How could the Heavens Equal Escort Agency only send one escort? Manor Lord Fong, you've misunderstood. That guy is a pirate that I caught to do manual labor. He's not an escort, Lin Yi explained with a smile. Pirates? Fong Bai Wu stared blankly for a moment, then suddenly realized, no wonder the goods should have been shipped a month ago, but they only arrived now. Could it be because of the pirate attack? That's right. We should have arrived long ago, but we were robbed by these pirates midway. We had no choice at that time, and then we were delayed in Jinduan City for a while. We were planning to return to Weilu City. We didn't expect to run into them again, so we simply snatched them back. I hope we didn't delay Manor Lord Fong's matter. Lin Yi explained the cause and effect of the incident in a few words. Although he didn't go into detail, Fong Bai Wu could hear the difficulty in these few words. He immediately bowed deeply to Lin Yi and said, Young hero Ling, on behalf of the 500 people of the Fong family, this Fong thanks you for your kindness. Manor Lord Fong is too kind. As an escort of the Heavens Equal Escort Agency, this is what I should do. There is no need for such kindness, Manor Lord Fong. Lin Yi quickly waved his hand. Sigh. Young hero Ling, there's something you don't know, but the things on this ship are life-saving supplies for everyone in the Fong family. Fong Baiwu explained to Lin Yi, in a few days, it will be the Heaven Sacrifice Day. Every year at this time, the miasma fog will return, and it is especially thick and poisonous. Even the locals who have lived here since they were young must rely on the miasma dispersal pill to survive. Otherwise, the consequences are unimaginable. If it's light, they will be crippled, and if it's heavy, they will die. It's that serious. Lin Yi couldn't help but be shocked. He thought that the locals here had been baptized by the miasma since young and should have adapted to it. It's even worse than that. The miasma dispersal pill is the lifeblood of our Fong family. However, a while ago, we were attacked by the spirit beasts, and even the storehouse was destroyed. Seeing that the Heaven Sacrifice Day is approaching, I could only spend a large amount of money to ask the Hong Family Chamber of Commerce to buy the miasma dispersal pill. The other supplies are not important, and it's fine if they are lost, but the miasma dispersal pill cannot be lost. If young Hero Ling didn't deliver it in time, all 500 of us. Fong Baiwu shook his head with lingering fear. To be honest, these days, he had been so worried that his hair had turned white. If Lin Yi hadn't delivered the miasma dispersal pill today, he would have taken the entire Fong family and fled Saliva Rock Island. Although they could avoid the Heaven Sacrifice Day, they couldn't avoid coming into contact with the outside world. The outside world was full of vicious and evil people, and they were mostly ordinary people. If they went out, many people would die. Moreover, it was difficult to leave one's homeland. Unless it was absolutely necessary, who would be willing to leave Saliva Rock Island? After Lin Yi heard this, he couldn't help but feel a mixture of emotions. Fortunately, he had encountered this group of pirates, and fortunately, he didn't just stand by and do nothing. Otherwise, so many people would have suffered. That was a few hundred lives. Pirates were detestable, but the most detestable one was the mastermind behind this incident, Wei Xiaodong. This guy didn't even let go of such life-saving goods, treating the lives of hundreds of people in Fong Family Village as if they were grass. It was obvious that he had completely lost his conscience. Such a scum was truly devoid of conscience. Originally, even if he had been tricked by this bastard, on account of Hong Zhong's old friend, Lin Yi didn't intend to specifically target this Wei Xiaodong. After all, he himself didn't suffer much losses. As long as he gave a warning, there was no harm in turning a blind eye. But now, Lin Yi changed his mind. This Wei Xiaodong, if he didn't make him pay a painful price, the heavens wouldn't tolerate it. Everyone in Fong Family Village was overjoyed. As they sent people to unload the goods on the ship, Fong Biwu personally came forward to welcome Lin Yi into the main hall of the Fong Family Village, treating him as an esteemed guest. To the entire Fong Family Village, Lin Yi could be considered as their true savior. If not for Lin Yi, their entire clan would have faced a calamity of annihilation. Naturally, they would receive him with the highest standards. Lin Yi originally didn't intend to stay on Saliva Rock Island for long, but he couldn't resist the enthusiasm of the people in Fong Family Village and was forced to stay for 2 days. After much persuasion, he was finally escorted out of Saliva Rock Island by the entire clan of several hundred people. These people from Fong Family Village were surprisingly simple and adorable. If it were any other ordinary person, they would have already done themselves justice by not taking it out on others. Chapter 43-33. Lin Yi waved goodbye to the people on the pier while sighing in his heart. But at the same time, he was a bit scared. These people were too enthusiastic and he wasn't someone who could keep people at arm's length. If it wasn't for the fact that the Heaven Sacrifice Day was approaching and the miasma would affect the journey, he would have to stay here for at least a month. After leaving the pier, Lin Yi suddenly said, "Xiao Hei, come here." Yes. Senior, what orders do you have? The black-clothed man didn't dare to be negligent and quickly walked over. You didn't make any trouble for me these 2 days and you didn't run away. You're very tactful. Lin Yi said lightly. I wouldn't dare. Without Senior's orders, this one wouldn't dare. The black-clothed man nodded and smiled apologetically. But in his heart, he was cursing. Only a fool wouldn't want to run away. But Saliva Ping Island was the Fong family's territory. Unless he forcefully took the boat, he would only die. Moreover, Fong Baiwu had specifically asked the Fong family's old housekeeper to keep an eye on him. That was a nascent soul stage expert. Under his watch, how could he escape? It's good that you have this awareness. Otherwise, I'll have to kill you. Lin Yi smiled and said, go set sail. Oh, yes, yes. The black-clothed man quickly nodded, but then asked, may I ask Senior, where are we going next? Dense Arc City. Lin Yi said lightly. Ah. The black-clothed man couldn't help but look embarrassed. Not only did he mess up Wei Xiaodong's task, but he also offended the Heaven's Equal Escort Agency. No matter which one he met, his end wouldn't be good. So the place he didn't dare to go the most was Dense Arc City. What? You have a problem. That's not a problem. I'll control the boat myself. As for you, you can go accompany your 3 pirate brothers. Lin Yi's eyes flashed with killing intent. No, I don't mind. I definitely don't mind. Senior, please calm down. I will do as you say. The black-clothed man hurriedly shook his head and hurriedly ran to sail the ship. Although the luxuriant Arc Sea area was a dangerous place for him, it was better than being killed by Lin Yi now. The situation was not in his favor, so he could only take one step at a time. A few days later, the cargo ship that Lin Yi was on finally docked at the dock of luxuriant Arc City. Looking at the bustling scene before him that was exactly the same as before, Lin Yi couldn't help but sigh with emotion. When he first came here with Huang Xiaotao, the two of them were only at the early stage of the Gold Core realm. They were unfamiliar with this place, and they were in trouble as soon as they came here. It could even be said that a great disaster was imminent. Only a month had passed, and Huang Xiaotao had already gone to the East Continent's Morning Star Academy, while he himself had already broken through to the middle Golden Core stage. Life is really full of ups and downs. The black-clothed man secretly stared at Lin Yi's reaction. At the same time, he was secretly accumulating his true qi. He was ready to wait for Lin Yi to show the slightest bit of negligence, and immediately make a move. Of course. He absolutely didn't dare to deal with Lin Yi alone. He just wanted to create a little chaos and take the opportunity to escape. After all, the current luxuriant Arc City was a place of trouble for him. It was better to escape as far as possible as early as possible. Lin Yi stood on the deck and looked at the busy dock below. He lazily stretched his waist. It seemed that he was preparing to jump off the cargo ship. At this moment, the black-clothed man's spirit was aroused and he was about to make a move. However, before he could throw a punch or half a kick, his eyes suddenly shook. Lin Yi's figure suddenly appeared in front of him, causing him to stagger in fright. Say. Senior, you are. The black-clothed man repeatedly retreated, while his heart was in a perilous situation. How is this guy so fast? He appears and disappears like a ghost. Little Black, it's rare for you to be so obedient. Now you want to run. Aren't you afraid that I'll kill you? Lin Yi raised his eyebrows. His divine sense had been locked on the black-clothed man. As long as there was the slightest fluctuation of true qi on the black-clothed man, it couldn't escape his perception. No, Senior, you misunderstood. I was just a little excited just now. I really didn't want to run. I swear to God. The black-clothed man hurriedly swore. Didn't want to run. Lin Yi smiled and nodded lightly. Since Little Black is so cooperative, it couldn't be better. You don't have to die, and you don't have to dirty my hands. It's a good thing for both of us. Yes, thank you, Senior, for sparing my little life. The black-clothed man was overjoyed when he heard this. He immediately breathed a sigh of relief. He thought that he was caught red-handed this time and he was dead for sure. However, before he could finish his qi, he suddenly blacked out. Lin Yi swept his foot on his head, and his whole body flew out. He fell awkwardly on the dock, causing a commotion among the surrounding people. Before he fainted, he said unwillingly, "Didn't you say that you wouldn't kill me?" "Yes, I won't kill you, but I didn't say that I won't kick you." Lin Yi raised the corner of his mouth slightly. He really didn't intend to kill anyone, but this guy was a master at the peak of the late-stage Goldcore realm, not an ordinary cat or dog. He was full of conspiracy. If he was allowed to jump around like this, he might cause trouble. Lin Yi was going to let him testify against Wei Xiaodong. Of course, it was better to make him faint first to save the trouble. Lin Yi jumped off the cargo ship and said a few words to the supervisor of the dock storage office. After the cargo ship was stored, he walked straight to the black-clothed man. Under the onlookers, he picked him up with one hand and was ready to return to the Heaven's Equal Escort Agency to report. At this moment, a familiar voice suddenly sounded in the distance. He laughed proudly. "Ha ha ha ha, I thought you just ran away and didn't dare to come back in this life. I really didn't expect that after hiding for so long, there would be a day for you to come out again." When the surrounding people heard this voice, their faces changed, and they hurriedly moved aside. Lin Yi looked up and saw that it was his first enemy after coming to the luxuriant Arc Sea area, the young master of the poisonous and mercenary group, Qing Jiutian. Behind him was still the peak of the early-stage nascent soul realm. It's really a small world," Lin Yi smiled coldly and casually threw the unconscious black-clothed man aside. He had expected this scene. A person like Qing Jiutian was a guy who would seek revenge for the smallest grievance. Last time, he made a fool of him in public. If he didn't get back at him, he would never let it go. He estimated that these days, his one-eyed mercenary group spies had been planted at the dock. Before Lin Yi reached the shore, he had probably already received the news. Well said, it's a small world. Since you have made an enemy like me, you are destined to be finished in this life. Qing Jiutian sneered proudly. When he was about to let his people take action, he suddenly looked stunned. "Why are you alone? Where is that chick? Why is she gone? Did she die outside? Ha 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 ha." Chapter 43-34. She's not dead, but I'm afraid you're not far from death. The corners of Lin Yi's mouth raised a cold arc, and the killing intent in his eyes was fierce. At this point, it was impossible not to kill. You're still talking big when you're about to die. It seems that there is a saying that is true, a dead duck is stubborn. The more a duck like you is about to die, the more stubborn its mouth is, haha. Qing Jiutian laughed complacently. It was a bit of a pity that he had to deal with Lin Yi alone, but it wasn't a big problem. This way, he'd be able to vent his anger. As for the girl, he'd just have someone keep an eye on her later. Moreover, after returning last time, Old Kong also told him that the reason why Ling Yi and the woman were so powerful was because their joint attack skills were extraordinary. If they couldn't cooperate with each other, they would just be ordinary early gold core stage masters, not worth mentioning. He didn't expect that the two of them would separate themselves, which saved him a lot of trouble. Whether it's a lie or not, you'll know soon. Lin Yi's eyes flashed, and his figure suddenly swept toward the other party. His speed was so fast that even an early nascent soul stage master like Old Kong couldn't help but be caught off guard. Qing Jiutian was immediately shocked and hurriedly retreated. At this moment, he couldn't hide the fear on his face. Don't be fooled by his arrogant and condescending appearance. After all, he had learned his lesson from last time. Even if he knew that the other party's strength was much lower than his, he was still afraid. At the same time that Qing Jiutian retreated in panic, Old Kong, who was beside him, instantly unleashed his full strength. Before he even arrived, the powerful true qi of the peak of the early nascent soul stage poured out in torrents, firmly blocking in front of Qing Jiutian. It formed a thick protective barrier. Although Lin Yi's outbreak was sudden, Old Kong was actually prepared for it. In his view, Lin Yi was alone, and since he couldn't use a powerful joint attack skill, then he was no threat to him. The only chance of survival for the other party was in Qing Jiutian. Therefore, as long as he protected Qing Jiutian from harm, the other party was already a cooked duck, and could forget about flying away. Seeing this, Qing Jiutian's heart settled. This was what he had instructed him to do before. He told Old Kong that no matter what happened, his first reaction must be to protect his own safety. Even if this Lin Yi's strength was much stronger than it looked, it was absolutely impossible for him to break through the defense of a peak early Yuanying stage master by himself. The truth was that there was a huge gap in strength between the nascent soul stage and the Aurous core stage. No matter how talented one was, it was not so easy to cross it. There was still a slight possibility, but those below the middle stage of the Jindan realm should not even think about it. However, in the next moment, the expression on Qing Jiutian's face froze. As for Old Kong, it was even more unbelievable. Frenzied Fire 8 trigrams palm, 30th form. This was the strongest martial skill that Lin Yi had mastered so far. He struck out with his palm without any hesitation. However, his target had never been Qing Jiutian. It was Old Kong. Qing Jiutian was only at the late stage of the Aurous core stage. Lin Yi did not put this kind of trash in his eyes at all. There was only one person present who could really threaten him. Only Old Kong, a powerful peak early Yuanying stage master, could. Everything he did was to strangle this biggest threat as soon as possible. Last time, Lin Yi and Huang Xiaotao suddenly attacked Old Kong. This time, only Lin Yi was alone, but he still made the same choice. This was something that Old Kong would never have thought of. At first glance, it seemed that he was attacking Qing Jiutian. Everything was so realistic and logical. Old Kong did not hesitate to protect Qing Jiutian with all his strength, but he did not expect that this was just a pretense. This time, because Old Kong put all his energy on Qing Jiutian, he was almost defenseless. He did not even release his qi to protect his body. He really did not know whether to say that he was too straightforward or too much. Boom! Caught off guard, Lin Yi's materialized 8 trigrams fire palm landed right on Old Kong's chest. That wasn't the end of it. Lin Yi followed up with a powerful mad fire 1,000 legs. In front of so many people at the docks, Old Kong, a master at the peak of the early stage of the nascent soul stage, couldn't even fight back. Seeing Old Kong being kicked away and falling to the ground fiercely, spitting blood and foaming at the mouth, no one knew whether he was dead or alive. Everyone present couldn't help but gasp. When they looked at Lin Yi again, their eyes had completely changed to looking at a monster. There were many masters present. At this moment, many people also saw that Lin Yi's strength was probably only at the middle stage of the Aurous core stage. However, such a master at the middle stage of the Aurous core stage, under the watchful eyes of everyone, beat Old Kong, a master at the peak of the early Yuanying stage, into such a state. Everyone couldn't help but ask the same question. Was this world crazy? Glancing at Old Kong on the ground, no matter whether he was dead or not, at least for a few months, it was impossible to recover his strength. Even Lin Yi himself was a little surprised. In his expectation, it would be good if he could injure the other party in this confrontation. He did not expect to directly beat him into a pulp. It was so smooth that it was somewhat unbelievable. This could only be explained by two reasons. First, Lin Yi's strength was not what it used to be. Second, Old Kong, a master at the peak of the early Yuanying stage, was too straightforward, and even, There was a sudden burst of screams from the back of the crowd, and then they saw a panicked figure fleeing from the dock. It was Qing Jiutian. Getting back his face was secondary. The only thing this high and mighty young master of the poisonous mercenary group had to consider at this moment was whether he could escape back to the headquarters of the poisonous mercenary group alive. Even Old Kong was so vulnerable in front of the other party. He was a master at the late Oris core stage, whose strength was far inferior. At this moment, his heart was trembling. If the other party caught up, only death would be left. No matter how powerful his father Qing Haonan was, it would be useless. As for Old Kong, whose life and death was unknown, Qing Jiutian simply did not care. His own life was in danger. Who the hell cared about the life and death of this kind of subordinate? Looking at Qing Jiutian's fleeing back, Lin Yi smiled coldly, but he did not intend to chase. It was not that he did not dare to kill Qing Jiutian, but there was no need to do so at once. Up until now, the other party had already received a sufficient lesson and retreated in the face of difficulties. At the very least, they shouldn't dare offend him again in a short period of time. On the other hand, if he were to kill Qing Jiutian in public now, then even though it would be extremely easy, in this way, it would be equivalent to publicly declaring war against the entire Poison mercenary group. The outcome would definitely be a fight to the death, and there wouldn't be the slightest room for negotiation. Chapter 43-35. With Lin Yi's current strength, he could deal with a few nascent soul practitioners, but if he wanted to fight Qing Haonan's Poison mercenaries all by himself, he'd be dreaming. He had no chance of winning at all, and he wouldn't be able to stay in the Wei Arc waters anymore if he really had to fight to the death. Lin Yi was never afraid of trouble, but he would not look for trouble either. He did not want to fight to the death with the Poison mercenary group unless it was absolutely necessary. At least before he left the Wei Arc Sea, it would be best to avoid this kind of thing if possible. Under the watchful eyes of the crowd, Lin Yi turned around, picked up the unconscious man in black, and walked towards the Heaven's Equal Escort Agency, leaving the people at the pier to discuss. Even an expert like Old Kong was crippled just like that. This person is really powerful. Looks like our Wei Arc City will have a new talent. He's obviously in the mid-golden core stage, but he could defeat an early original infant stage expert in one move. Who is he? Could he be a genius disciple from some powerful faction? Yes, it's very possible. I heard that the East Continent's Morning Star Academy has been selecting disciples in the Jinduan Sea for the past few days. This person could be a genius disciple from the Morning Star Academy who came here in advance. Ignorant and ill-informed, what do you know? This person is not a disciple from the Morning Star Academy. He's an escort from the Heaven's Equal Escort Agency. I think his name is Ling Yi or something. He's an expert that the young master, Qi Wenhan, personally tried to rope in. Yes, I remember now. He fought with Qing Kitian here last time. He also had the upper hand and lost to the same person twice. This young Master Guitian is really blind. These people from the Poison mercenary group have always been arrogant and despotic, especially this Master Kamita. Damn, they make me pay protection fees every day. Even the pier belongs to them. They finally met their match. Serves them right. Show. Lower your voice, the Poison mercenary group is here. Let's hide. What followed was all sorts of discussions and chaos at the dock. None of this had anything to do with Lin Yi anymore. He grabbed the black-clothed man with one hand and tossed him into a haystack in the corner of the yard after arriving at the Equal Heaven Escort Agency. He would not wake up anytime soon, so there was no need to worry about him running away. As Lin Yi walked towards the mission hall, the two guards at the door were surprised to see Lin Yi suddenly return. They looked at each other in dismay. They whispered to each other, "This guy actually dared to come back. His skin is really thick, what do you mean?" Lin Yi furrowed his brows and looked at the two of them, confused. As escorts of the Heaven's Equal Escort Agency, Lin Yi had no idea what was going on. Returning to hand in the mission was a matter of course. How could he be so thick-skinned? There must be someone behind this. Discussions aside, the guards had no intention of stopping Lin Yi. No matter how fiercely they discussed in private, as long as there were no orders from above, they would not act on their own. They only looked at Lin Yi with a strange expression as they watched him enter the mission hall. At this moment, the mission hall was bustling with activity. There were more than 10 escorts gathered there, including the two people that Lin Yi had worked with before, Li Yanji and Guan Ziyuan. Originally, the manager was assigning tasks to everyone, and the escorts were eager to give it a try. From the looks of it, this should be a lucrative and low-risk job. However, when Lin Yi walked in, the entire hall suddenly fell silent. Everyone's eyes were focused on Lin Yi, their expressions complicated. This was especially so for Li Yanji and Guan Ziyuan. When they saw Lin Yi, their expressions changed. They looked at each other, their eyes clearly showing signs of panic. Lin Yi cupped his hands at the crowd and was about to speak when Li Yanji suddenly jumped out and pointed at Lin Yi, scolding, "What a daring traitor you are! Lin Yi, you actually have the guts to come back. How unexpected! Everyone, let's capture this traitor. Don't let him escape." That's right, the appearance of this scum here is an insult to all of us. We must capture him and punish him as a warning to others. Guan Ziyuan also jumped out to support him. Although the reactions of the rest of the people were not as intense as the two of them, the way they looked at Lin Yi was clearly filled with disdain. There were even some traces of enmity. Even so, it was impossible for Li Yanji and Guan Ziyuan to incite them to attack together. Everyone present was a wily old fox that had roamed the Jianghu for many years. How could they be used so easily? It was indeed these two fellows who were behind this. When Lin Yi saw this melodramatic scene, how could he not understand the situation? In an instant, he had already figured out the cause and effect. What do you mean? Lin Yi laughed coldly and looked at the two of them without batting an eyelid. Today, he wanted to see how these two fellows were going to continue their act. What do I mean? Your skin is really thick to a certain extent. After committing such a shameless act, you still dare to come back and pretend that nothing happened. Li Yanji laughed coldly. In the eyes of those who did not know what had happened, it was as if the incident was real. Brat, let me tell you, in our Equal Heaven Escort Agency, escaping in the face of danger is considered a traitor. That is a serious crime. Moreover, what you did back then was not as simple as escaping in the face of danger. You acted as an accomplice to the evildoer, tarnishing the reputation of our entire escort agency. Moreover, we had to pay a sky-high compensation. Even if you had several lives, it would not be enough. Guan Ziyuan chimed in indignantly. When Lin Yi saw this scene, he secretly curled his lips. These two fellows did not have much strength or courage, but they were good at acting. No wonder so many people present were bewitched by them, acted as an accomplice to the evildoer. Why don't you tell me, how did I act as an accomplice to the evildoer? Lin Yi was not as exasperated as everyone thought he would be. Instead, he calmly asked with a smile. The way he looked at Li Guan and Guan Ziyuan was as if he was looking at two clowns. It was as if he did not care about the two of them at all. You traitor, how dare you be so arrogant? Li Guan and Guan Ziyuan looked at each other and were instantly shocked. To the two of them, the best situation was to provoke Ling Yi with words. Then, Ling Yi would be forced to do something out of desperation. That way, the crime would be completely confirmed. Then, they could take advantage of the chaos to silence Ling Yi and Guan Ziyuan. That way, there would be no repercussions. However, they did not expect that Ling Yi would still be so calm and composed even though the pot of shit had been placed on his head. He did not show any signs of anger. What should they do? They could not possibly kill someone in front of everyone, right? Chapter 43-36. In that case, the escorts present might not think much of it, but it would be hard to explain to the young master, Qi Wenhan. After all, he was the young master of the Heaven's Equal Escort Agency. No matter how big a mistake his escorts made, he had to deal with them personally. Outsiders had no right to interfere. Arrogant? I don't think so. An upright person is not afraid of a crooked shadow. But the two of you are so agitated. Do you have some unspeakable conspiracy? Lin Yi crossed his arms and smiled playfully. In his eyes, Li Guan and Lin Yi weren't strong enough to withstand a single blow, and they weren't good at scheming either. Clowns like them were nothing to worry about, and with Lin Yi's personality, there was no way he'd get angry over these two. After all, they were not on the same level. He had seen people fight, but he had never seen a man fight with ants. He would either ignore them or crush them to death. There was no need to get angry. Humph. Sharp-tongued. Seeing that the other party was so calm, Li Guan and Li Yanji suddenly had a bad feeling. If they continued to drag this out, something bad might happen. Li Yanji suddenly had an idea and asked, "What about that woman? Why didn't she come back with you? Did she follow the pirates and become a pirate's wife?" That's right. Back then, you used your junior sister to curry favor with the pirates. It seems that you've completely lost your junior sister. How dare you come back alone? I've seen many shameless people, but I've never seen anyone as shameless as you. Guan Ziyuan quickly cooperated and sneered. If you were just spreading rumors and causing trouble, I could consider sparing your worthless lives. But since you've slandered my junior sister, I can only say this to the two of you, I'm deeply sorry. Lin Yi's eyes suddenly turned cold. His eyes flashed with murderous intent. Although he did not release a strong aura, the escorts present all felt a chill in their hearts and unconsciously took a few steps back. Humph. You've finally been poked in the foot by us. You're desperate, aren't you? Show me if you can. Li Yanji and Guan Ziyuan were overjoyed instead of shocked. They continued to provoke Lin Yi with words. They couldn't wait for Lin Yi to fly into a rage out of humiliation. If that happened, everything would be fine. Hee hee. Do you really think I won't dare to kill you? Lin Yi glanced at the two clowns with some pity. If he didn't have any evidence in his hands, he might not be able to clear his name if he made a move on them. Unfortunately, he had solid evidence in his hands, so he wasn't afraid of them slandering him. Humph, you sure talk big. Why don't you try and kill us? With your strength at the early gold core stage, you dare to be so arrogant. Aren't you afraid of being laughed at? Ha 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 ha. Li Guan continued to provoke them. Courting death. Lin Yi shook his head indifferently and immediately prepared to kill the two of them. One was at the peak of the middle stage of the Golden Core Realm, and the other was at the middle stage of the Golden Core Realm. However, at that moment, a person suddenly walked out from the inner hole. Looking at the crowd, he frowned and said, "Why aren't you working properly? Why are you making a ruckus here?" "Greetings, young master." The group of escorts hurriedly greeted him in unison. The person who had come was the young master of the Chitian escort agency, Chi Wen-han. Lin Yi suppressed his murderous intent as he watched the situation unfold. He had solid evidence on hand, so even if he killed Li Yanji and Guan Ziyuan, the truth would still come out in the end. However, if he did it in front of Chi Wen-han, it would be a little too much. Even if he cleared things up afterward, he wouldn't be able to stay in the escort agency any longer. Moreover, after interacting with him previously, Lin Yi felt that Chi Wen-han was actually quite a smart person. He didn't seem like someone who would be deceived by Li Yanji and Guan Ziyuan with a few simple words. He might as well wait and see and listen to what he had to say first. His gaze swept across the crowd and finally landed on Lin Yi in the middle. Chi Wen-han couldn't help but be shocked, and his expression immediately became somewhat complicated. "Ling Yi, the traitor, has returned. Young master, please punish him severely as a warning to others." Seeing this, Li Guan and Guan Ziyuan's expressions also became somewhat strange as they hurriedly jumped out and said. The two of them secretly sighed in their hearts. Seeing that Ling Yi had already taken the bait, everything would be fine once they made a move. In the end, Chi Wen-han just had to come at this moment, and now the situation was out of their control again. Little did they know that if Chi Wen-han had not come out, the two of them would have already become two corpses. They didn't even know that they had taken a trip to the gates of hell, and even felt that it was a pity. The world really lacked many things, but there was no lack of idiots who thought they were smart. Upon hearing this, Chi Wen-han's expression darkened. Sizing up Lin Yi, he did not immediately speak. Instead, he waved his hand at the two of them, indicating that they should not be impatient. Ever since Li Yanji and Guan Ziyuan returned empty-handed about a month ago, knowing that the precious goods had been stolen, the days of the Heaven's Equal Escort Agency had been extremely difficult. As the young master who was gradually taking over the agency, he was even more troubled. The reputation that the Heaven's Equal Escort Agency had built up over the past few decades had suffered greatly because of this incident. Even their status in the Verdant Arc territorial waters was in jeopardy. Not only that, they had to pay the Hong Merchant Guild a total of 300,000 spirit jades according to the contract they had signed beforehand. Only then did they manage to force the Hong Merchant Guild to shut up and not spread the news. This series of losses was a huge blow to the Heaven's Equal Escort Agency, especially to the young master, Chi Wen-han. According to Li Yanji and Guan Ziyuan's report, the main culprits behind all these losses were Lin Yi and Guan Ziyuan. Although the other party has 4 late Golden Elixir Realm experts who are very powerful, we also have 4 people. Even if there is a huge disparity in our strength, if we were to fight to the death, we would still have a chance. However, we did not expect Ling Yi and his junior sister to surrender on the spot when they encountered the enemy. Instead, they became the pirates' minions, acting as accomplices to the evildoers. The two of us had no choice but to let the goods fall into the hands of the pirates. These were the exact words that Li Yanji and Guan Ziyuan had said at that time. If this was really the case, then the main culprits of this incident were undoubtedly Lin Yi and Guan Ziyuan. There was even reason to speculate that the pirates had colluded with Lin Yi and Guan Ziyuan beforehand. Otherwise, they would not have waited so coincidentally, and Lin Yi and Guan Ziyuan would not have surrendered so naturally. However, Chi Wen-han did not completely believe this one-sided story. When he heard this, he was actually a little puzzled. Although he had only interacted with Lin Yi once, his instincts told him that Lin Yi wasn't the kind of person who would betray him. Chapter 43-37. As the young master of the escort agency, Chi Wen-han had seen all sorts of people. He had always been very confident in his judgment of people, and had never made any mistakes. Furthermore, if this Ling Yi really was a traitor, why would he dare to return alone after surrendering to the pirates without a second word? There were only two possibilities. Either he was not afraid of death, or there was something else to this. Although Qi Wenhan was still relatively objective, his expression did not look any better. After all, he had suffered for an entire month because of this incident. It was only yesterday that he had finally gathered the 300,000 spiritual jades as compensation to the Hong Merchant Association and sent it to Wei Xiaodong. Only then did the matter come to an end. Qi Wenhan had never expected that Ling Yi would return alone right after he had dealt with the problem outside. This was perfect. After all, it was impossible to know a man's heart. Today was the perfect opportunity for him to confront Li Yanji and Guan Ziyuan face to face. The impact of this incident was too great, and he had to clarify the cause and effect. Otherwise, he would not let this matter rest. Li Yanji, Guan Ziyuan, Ling Yi, all three of you are involved. In front of everyone, explain everything clearly. This incident must come to an end today. Qi Wenhan said to the crowd in a low voice. Yes, young master, I'll speak first. Li Yanji hurriedly said. Anyone with a bit of experience would know that this kind of thing was advantageous to the party who spoke first. This was because everyone would have a preconceived impression of what was going on. As long as there were no major mistakes in logic, they would naturally be in an undefeatable position. Furthermore, he and Guan Ziyuan were veteran permanent escorts of the Heaven's Equal Escort Agency. Their experience was far beyond that of a newly joined escort like Lin Yi. No matter how astute and fair Qi Wenhan was, it was inevitable that there would be a gap between them. It was only natural that he would believe the words of the two of them more. The sudden development of the situation was something that the two of them had never expected. Now that things had come to this, the two of them had nowhere else to go. They could only think of a way to slander Lin Yi in front of everyone so that he would not be able to defend himself. Previously, when the two of them had just escaped, they insisted that Lin Yi and his companion were the main culprits of this incident. Taking advantage of Lin Yi and Huang Xiaodao's absence, Li Yanji and Guan Ziyuan took the opportunity to pour dirty water on them. If they did not do this and others knew that Li Yanji and Guan Ziyuan had surrendered without a fight, they would no longer be able to work as escorts in the future. At the very least, they would no longer be able to establish themselves in the Equal of Heaven Escort Agency. And now, the two of them were in an even more difficult situation. If everyone knew that the two of them not only surrendered without a fight, but also slandered their companion, it would be a serious matter. It wouldn't be as simple as losing their jobs. According to the rules of Jianghu, this kind of treachery was punishable by 3 knives and 6 holes. Therefore, no matter what, Li Yanji and Guan Ziyuan had to convict Lin Yi today. Moreover, it had to be impeccable, leaving him speechless. Hearing this, Qi Wenhan nodded indifferently. In any case, the three of them were going to confront each other. As long as the truth was revealed, it didn't matter to him who spoke first. That day, we departed from Weiwan City. Logically speaking, the escort route should be strictly confidential. Other than young master and shopkeeper Wei, there were only the 4 of us escorts. Moreover, because the route we chose was very secluded, coupled with the thick sea fog, under normal circumstances, it was impossible for us to meet anyone, let alone pirates. Unless Li Yanji was afraid that he would make a mistake, so he weighed every word he said. When his words fell into the ears of the others, they sounded very reasonable. Unless what? Continue, Qi Wenhan said coldly. Yes, under such circumstances, we were still ambushed by pirates. There's only one explanation, someone is a traitor. Li Yanji said decisively. This was not something he had made up on the spot. After all, there was indeed something fishy about the appearance of the pirates. It would be too much of a coincidence to say that these pirates had not been prepared and had just happened to pass by that desolate place by accident. Hearing this, everyone nodded their heads. This analysis was reasonable. They were all experienced Jianghu people. Under such circumstances, the possibility of a traitor being a traitor was indeed very high. That's right. At that time, when the 4 pirates at the peak of the Golden Elixir realm appeared, Brother Li and I didn't even have time to react. Ling Yi and his junior sister surrendered without saying anything and even helped the pirates to keep an eye on the 2 of us. 2 against 6, we had no choice but to let them do as they pleased. It's obvious who the traitor is. Guan Ziyuan followed up and secretly exchanged glances with Li Yanji. The 2 of them obviously felt that this explanation was impeccable and were extremely pleased with themselves. For a moment, everyone's gaze was once again focused on Lin Yi. According to Li Guan and Guan Ziyuan's explanation, Lin Yi was really going to be accused of being a traitor. Lin Yi, what do you say? Qi Wenhan looked at Lin Yi and asked. Regardless of whether he believed the explanation of Li Guan and Guan Ziyuan, since it was a confrontation, he naturally had to give Lin Yi a chance to speak. Lin Yi smiled indifferently and turned his head to look at Li Guan and Guan Ziyuan. He raised his eyebrows and said, "Are you 2 done?" "Yes, why? Are you still trying to quibble?" "The facts are clear, there's nothing else to explain, right?" Li Yanji laughed coldly and immediately said to Qi Wenhan, "Young master, he has admitted it. Please punish him and severely punish the traitor as a warning to others." Qi Wenhan frowned. Although it sounded like it was indeed the case, the fact that Li Guan and Guan Ziyuan could not wait to convict Ling Yi was a little thought-provoking. "Hee, are you 2 stupid? Brother Qi asked me just now and not the 2 of you. You are so anxious to convict me. Even a fool can see that there's something fishy about this. Are you feeling guilty?" Lin Yi said calmly. "Feeling guilty? Both of us are speaking the truth. What is there to feel guilty about? Since things have already come to this, do you still want to accuse us of framing an innocent person?" I advise you not to be too naive," Guan Ziyuan said with a cold smile. "From the beginning to the end, it's only the words of the 2 of you. Furthermore, there's no evidence to speak of. Do I still need to accuse you? Do you think everyone is listening to a storyteller and can make up whatever you want?" Lin Yi could not help but be amused as he looked at the 2 of them mischievously. "Evidence?" Guan Ziyuan was suddenly at a loss for words. His expression stiffened and he did not know what to say. Why is there no evidence? Li Yanji suddenly rolled his eyes and pointed at Lin Yi as he vowed, "There are 2 irrefutable pieces of evidence that are enough to prove that you are a traitor." "Oh. Let's hear it." Lin Yi was not anxious at all. The way he looked at Li Guan and Guan Ziyuan was no different from watching a monkey on the street. He wanted to see what kind of tricks this guy could come up with. Chapter 43-38. Qi Wenhan and the rest of the crowd also stared at Li Yanji. If the evidence was truly irrefutable, then Ling Yi could forget about leaving the Equal of Heaven escort agency ever again. The damage he had caused to the agency was more than enough to be repaid with a few lives. "First, Guan Ziyuan and I came back a month ago, but you only came back now. If you weren't involved with the pirates, why didn't you come back with us?" Li Yanji laughed coldly and proudly. Everyone nodded when they heard this. This was indeed quite a suspicious point, and it could also be used as evidence because it could support what they had said before. They had no idea that it wasn't that Lin Yi and Huang Xiaotao didn't want to come back with them, but that they couldn't and were trapped in Jinduan City. What else? Lin Yi did not refute and continued to look at Li Yanji with a faint smile. "Secondly, why didn't your junior sister Huang come back with you?" It's obvious that she was taken in as a pirate's wife by the pirates, so she can't come back, isn't that so? At this point, even Li Yanji himself began to admire his quick-wittedness. The evidence he had grasped was simply flawless, as if it was real. Sure enough, after listening to his two so-called pieces of evidence, Qi Wenhan and the rest of the people present, who were originally skeptical, now believed at least 70 to 80%. Unless Lin Yi could bring out stronger evidence than this, no matter how extravagant his words were, it would be of no use. Hee, I really couldn't tell that you're actually a talent. Lin Yi wasn't as flustered as everyone thought he would be. Instead, he calmly teased, with your eloquence. To be able to make the dead come alive, to be able to make the crooked straight, rather than wasting one's talent as an escort, he might as well switch to selling insurance. If that didn't work, a matchmaker would do. Anyway, I'm sure you'll earn more than you do now. Brat, let me give you a word of advice. You'd better watch your mouth. Don't think that our escort agency doesn't kill people. Shameless traitors like you deserve to be punished. Li Yanji said angrily. Although he didn't understand what kind of industry selling insurance was, he knew what a matchmaker was. Asking a dignified middle-stage gold-core expert like him to be a matchmaker, this brat really didn't use any dirty words when he scolded others. Ling Yi. If you have any objections to what the two of them just said, you can raise them in front of everyone. Right now, there is no final conclusion. I hope I didn't misjudge. Qi Wenhan frowned slightly. Now that they heard it, Ling Yi was indeed the most suspicious person. At the very least, Li Guan's words and the two pieces of evidence could be said to be logical. It could almost explain all the doubts that everyone had. The only thing that could not be explained was, why did Ling Yi dare to return alone? Young master, the evidence is irrefutable. I don't think he has anything to say. In the face of irrefutable evidence, what's the use of your glib tongue? Li Yanji sneered proudly. That's right. Ling Yi, hurry up. If you have any evidence that can reverse the verdict, hurry up and say it. Otherwise, if you wait for the fight to start and then claim innocence, it won't be justifiable. Guan Ziyuan, who was at the side, laughed loudly. He didn't believe that Lin Yi had any evidence in his hands at all. This time, victory was already in his hands. I have nothing to say. Lin Yi shook his head lightly. Ha. Now you finally have nothing to say, right? Hurry up and admit your guilt. Li Guan and Guan Ziyuan became even more complacent. In such a situation, danger could be averted with just a few words from the two of them. After they killed Ling Yi, they must find a restaurant to have a few drinks and celebrate. When Qi Wenhan saw this scene, he couldn't help but frown deeper and deeper. He gave Lin Yi a chance to refute, but in the end, Lin Yi had nothing to say. Could it be that he had misjudged him? Lin Yi looked at the crowd, and without saying anything, he suddenly turned and walked towards the courtyard outside. Quickly take him down, this brat wants to escape. Li Guan and Guan Ziyuan hurriedly shouted. Since the situation had already developed to this stage, they had to take this opportunity to kill Lin Yi. Otherwise, even if this brat lived for another day, he could still be a variable. To be safe, they had to nip this problem in the bud. Hearing the shouts of the two people, the two guards at the door couldn't help but turn their heads to look at Lin Yi, and then looked at Qi Wenhan, waiting for their young master's orders. Qi Wenhan really didn't think that Lin Yi would have such a reaction, and he couldn't help but hesitate. However, he still waved his hands at the two guards, indicating that there was no need to stop them. After all, the two pieces of evidence that Li Yanji had just presented could be used as evidence to a certain extent, but to say that Lin Yi could be convicted based on this alone was a bit far-fetched. Furthermore, Lin Yi was only an escort in name. If they couldn't really convict him, even if the mission failed, the most the escort agency could do was terminate his contract. If they had to blame someone, they could only blame Chi Wen-han for misjudging him. Even if they mobilized a large number of people to take down Lin Yi, what use would it be? Make him pay. Not to mention the reputation of the Heavens Equal Escort Agency. Could he even afford the 300,000 spiritual jades that they had to pay to Wei Xiaodong of the Hong Merchant Guild? Or was it better to just beat him up to vent his anger? Apart from making people look down on the Heavens Equal Escort Agency, what use would that be? However, if Lin Yi just let him walk away without a word of explanation, Chi Wen-han couldn't accept it. Even if it was purely for the sake of convincing the public, he had to do something about it. Forget it, if this fellow takes a step out of the escort agency, then I'll make him stay. Chi Wen-han hesitated for a moment before he finally made his decision. However, he didn't expect that Lin Yi had no intention of leaving the agency at all. After making a trip to the courtyard, he turned around and returned with another person in his hands. Bang! Lin Yi casually threw the unconscious man in black in front of the crowd. What's the meaning of this? Chi Wen-han couldn't help but narrow his eyes as he looked at the man on the ground in bewilderment. Everyone else was also confused and looked at each other. Among the crowd, only Li Yanji and Guan Ziyuan were shocked and they saw the man in black's appearance. When they looked at Lin Yi again, their gazes were filled with disbelief. Wasn't this the pirate leader? How did he end up in this kid's hands? Both of them couldn't hide the fear in their eyes. This was really bad. This man in black was a solid witness. In front of him, everything they had fabricated before, including the two so-called pieces of evidence, was nothing more than a fleeting cloud that couldn't withstand a single blow. Once the truth was revealed, the two of them could forget about having a foothold in the Heavens Equal Escort Agency. Once their names became infamous, they wouldn't be able to survive in the entire Weyark territorial waters. Chapter 43-39. How dare you? Why did you bring a bunch of random people into our agency? Are you trying to mess up our Equal of Heaven Escort Agency? Hurry up and throw him out. Li Yanji did not have time to think too much. Before Lin Yi could speak, he rushed forward and pretended to throw the man in black out. At the same time, he used his body to block everyone's sight and was about to make a move secretly. Although it was a little risky, he could not think of a better way at the moment. He had to kill him quickly. Slap. This kind of petty calculation could be seen at a glance. How could Lin Yi let him succeed? Without using any martial arts, he directly raised his hand and slapped Li Yanji away in front of everyone. Li Yanji crashed into a courtyard wall and fell into the dust, unable to get up for a long time. Guan Ziyuan also wanted to make a move, but Lin Yi frightened him with a look. It was like a little lamb being stared at by a hungry wolf. In an instant, his scalp went numb and he did not dare to take another step forward. Both of them were in the middle stage of the Gold Core realm, but the difference in strength was more than 10 times. If he really wanted to kill, Lin Yi could kill him with one finger. He had been in Jianghu for many years. Although he did not have extraordinary eyesight, at least he had a little intuition for danger. The others looked at Lin Yi with vigilance. No one expected Lin Yi to suddenly make a move. Moreover, no one expected that this guy, who was in the early stage of the Gold Core realm, could now send Li Yanji flying with one slap without batting an eyelid. However, Chi Wen-han was not too surprised by this. Back when Lin Yi was at the dock, he was an expert at the level of Old Kong. It was not surprising that Li Yanji, who was in the middle stage of the Gold Core realm, was sent flying with one slap. At this moment, he was only curious about the background of the man in black lying on the ground. Hee hee. It seems that you two still recognize him. What now? You want to throw it out? You want to silence me? Didn't the two of you just say that I surrendered to this guy? Now let him personally prove it to everyone, isn't it more convincing? Lin Yi sneered as he kicked the man in black twice, waking him up. Senior, spare my life. Senior, please spare my life. After the black-clothed man woke up, he couldn't care less about the people around him, nor did he dare to run away. The first thing he did was to kowtow to Lin Yi and beg for mercy. Everyone immediately looked at each other. The man in black did not deliberately restrain his aura. They could see that he was clearly an expert at the peak of the late stage of the gold elixir realm. Why did he kowtow to Lin Yi? However, Qi Wenhan didn't care about this. He looked at the black-clothed man and turned to look at Lin Yi. Are you saying that this person is the pirate who robbed me? That's right. Lin Yi nodded lightly. He was too lazy to explain anything. In fact, there was no need to explain anything. Qi Wenhan was a smart man. Just now, Li Yanji's reaction of wanting to silence him had already proved the credibility of this person's identity. At the same time, it also proved that what the two of them had said before was nonsense. Speak, what the hell is going on? Qi Wenhan suddenly grabbed Guan Ziyuan's collar with one hand and growled in a low voice with an unfriendly expression. When he realized that he had been played like a fool by his subordinates, it was impossible for him to continue suppressing it. Li Yanji fell into the pile of stones and couldn't get up. He had escaped. At this moment, Guan Ziyuan was left alone. Facing Qi Wenhan's anger alone, he couldn't say a word. Under the watchful eyes of everyone, this guy was so scared that he peed himself. The smell of urine made everyone frown. Qi Wenhan's mouth twitched a few times. He was afraid that this guy would pee on him, so he immediately threw it aside with a look of disgust. Why don't you explain? Why did you rob the goods, and how did you know the route we took? Lin Yi kicked the man in black and said calmly, Hurry up, I'll only give you one chance. If you can't explain clearly, then don't say anything. With your three brothers as examples, you should know what kind of person I am. Think about how ruthless I am. The man in black trembled. He hadn't seen how his second brother had died, but he had seen clearly what had happened to his third and fourth brothers. If this guy in front of him wanted to kill him, it would be as easy as flipping his hand. Yes, senior, please don't worry. I won't dare to hide anything. The man in black nodded his head repeatedly, then said to Qi Wenhan and the rest of the crowd, I received news and a map of the route beforehand, so I waited there in advance. I was prepared to rob this ship of goods. According to our previous agreement, we would hand over the goods to the other party and receive a large sum of money. Who is the other party? Qi Wenhan's expression turned cold. The losses caused by this incident were too great, and he had to find the culprit. Otherwise, the Heaven's Equal Escort Agency wouldn't be able to raise its head in front of others. The man in black looked at Lin Yi, then slowly said to the crowd, Hong Merchant Guild, Wei Xiaodong. As soon as these words came out, everyone, including Qi Wenhan, Li Yanji, and Guan Ziyuan, who had fallen to the side, couldn't help but suck in a breath of cold air. This answer was hard to believe, but after thinking about it carefully, it seemed to make sense. This was a large transaction worth 300,000 spiritual jades. Most people wouldn't have such insider information, nor would they have such a large appetite. Furthermore, everyone had already determined that someone must have leaked information about this incident. It was just that they had all been suspicious of Lin Yi, and didn't even think about Wei Xiaodong. You're saying that he took back his own goods, and now wants to extort 300,000 spiritual jades from the Heaven's Equal Escort Agency. Qi Wenhan's expression turned extremely ugly. With regards to this unexpected answer, the rest of the people present might have doubted it, but after hearing it, Qi Wenhan believed it without a doubt. The reason was simple. Now that he thought about it, when they were finalizing the details of the contract, Wei Xiaodong's behavior was indeed strange and unusual. At that time, in the contract, Wei Xiaodong requested that if anything happened, the escort agency must pay the full price. For this, he didn't even hesitate to specify the value of the goods worth 300,000 spiritual jades. This was something that had never happened in the past. After all, the two agencies had been working together for more than a year or two, and nothing had ever happened. The risk was extremely low, and there had never been a time when they failed. Thus, he didn't have to deliberately emphasize this. Aside from this, there was another extremely unusual behavior. Wei Xiaodong insisted on personally planning the route of the escort. According to the rules, only the manager and the person in charge of the escort agency knew the route of the escort. No one else was allowed to know, even if Wei Xiaodong was the employer. However, because of their old friendship, and because he had to win over this big client in the future, Qi Wenhan didn't have much vigilance at that time. Chapter 43-40. Moreover, the reason that Wei Xiaodong gave at that time was that this batch of goods was a lifesaver for the Fong family manor on Saliva Ping Island, so he had to ensure that nothing would go wrong. It sounded reasonable, so Qi Wenhan didn't think too much about it and didn't ask him to leave. He would never have thought that the source of Wei Xiaodong's abnormal behavior would be this. It was because he wanted to swallow the goods for himself. He wanted to gain something without risking anything. He wanted to use this opportunity to extort a total of 300,000 spiritual jades. What a huge appetite. Yes, that's what happened. The man in black nodded and glanced at Lin Yi timidly. It was too late for regrets in his heart. He thought that cooperating with Wei Xiaodong would be a good business deal. Who knew that such a ferocious god of slaughter would actually be an armed escort? If he had known this earlier, he wouldn't have dared to rob the goods even if he had 10,000 guts. Tell me in detail the situation when you robbed the goods. Qi Wenhan suppressed the anger in his heart and said with a straight face. Robbed the goods. Oh, but there's nothing to say. After the four of us boarded the ship, they didn't resist. After all, the difference in strength was so great. If they dared to resist, then only death awaited them. As the man in black spoke, he was secretly suspicious. Although it seemed like this at first glance, with this god of slaughter's strength, even if it was 1 against 4, it would be easy. Why didn't he make a move at that time? Who was the first to surrender at that time? Qi Wenhan asked with a cold face. Well, wasn't it those two guys? The man in black pointed at Li Yanji and Guan Ziyuan. Everyone's face suddenly changed. Their eyes were full of contempt and disdain as they looked at Li Yanji and Guan Ziyuan. These two guys were the first to surrender, and after returning, they actually poured dirty water on their companions. They were shameless to this extent. They were really fucking scumbags from head to toe. Don't slander him. This person is not a pirate at all. What he said is also false. Young master, you must not believe him. Li Yanji and Guan Ziyuan couldn't care less about their sorry state. They hurriedly rolled and crawled as they cursed. Even at this point, they still didn't want to give up. They felt that as long as they insisted that this person was hired by Lin Yi to act, they still had a chance of survival. False. There was no need for Lin Yi to open his mouth. Qi Wenhan himself had already sent the two hopeless idiots flying with a kick each. With a murderous look, he shouted coldly, even now, you two are still speaking for Wei Xiaodong. Can I assume that you are all his accomplices? Ah. No, no. Young master, we. Li Yanji and Guan Ziyuan's faces were bruised and swollen. Their faces were ashen as they stammered, unable to speak. They didn't know that when Wei Xiaodong and Qi Wenhan were discussing, they were even more unaware that Qi Wenhan had already determined that the mastermind behind this incident was Wei Xiaodong without a doubt. At this time, they were splashing dirty water on Lin Yi. Not only would it not help the situation, but they would also be considered as Wei Xiaodong's accomplices. Originally, it was just a matter of losing their jobs. If they continued to cause trouble, they might even lose their lives. Continue speaking. Qi Wenhan turned to the black-clothed man and said. As for Li Yanji and Guan Ziyuan, he didn't even bother to look at them. If these two idiots wanted to recklessly continue to pester him, he didn't mind sending them to hell. This was already taking into account that the two had worked in the escort agency for so long. Even if they didn't contribute much, they still worked hard. Otherwise, Qi Wenhan really wouldn't show them any mercy. Just based on the fact that the two were suspected of colluding with Wei Xiaodong, it wouldn't be too much to beat them to death. After we robbed the escort, we took a detour to the True Segment Sea and left them in the True Segment City. Originally, we wanted to go to the Far Star Sea as planned and deliver the cargo ship to Wei Xiaodong as soon as possible. We didn't expect to encounter a storm halfway, so we had to return to the True Segment City. Then, we encountered the Morning Star Academy coming out to select disciples. They immediately put the entire pier under martial law, so we couldn't enter or leave. So we were trapped in the True Segment City. The black-clothed man said helplessly with a depressed expression. If it weren't for these trivial matters, they wouldn't have met Lin Yi again, and naturally wouldn't have ended up like this. Once a person was unlucky, even drinking cold water would be enough to fill the gaps between one's teeth. Far Star Sea. That place is even further away from here than the True Segment Sea. You didn't receive any news of your transaction there. Wei Xiaodong is really careful. Qi Wenhan sneered. If they had carried out the transaction in the luxuriant Arc Sea, no matter how careful they were, it would have been impossible to completely avoid the eyes and ears of the Heavens Equal Escort Agency. It was obvious that Wei Xiaodong had planned this for a long time and was well prepared. In the end, at the True Segment Pier, we were discovered by the senior, and then. The black-clothed man looked at Lin Yi timidly and spread out his hand speechlessly. Then what? Qi Wenhan couldn't help but ask. The others present also had strange expressions on their faces. Then I killed them one by one. He was the only one left, and I brought him back. Lin Yi replied with a faint smile. Ah. Qi Wenhan and the others suddenly looked at each other and sized up Lin Yi again. The other party was 4 experts at the peak of the late Golden Core stage, but they had been killed one by one. Moreover, he had even captured the last guy alive. How strong was he? Even an expert at the consummate stage of the Golden Core stage might not be able to do this. He had to be at least a nascent soul stage expert, right? But even Qi Wenhan himself wouldn't believe that Ling Yi was actually a nascent soul stage expert. He had roped in a potential expert on a whim, but he hadn't expected him to be so fierce. This time, he had really made a big profit. If it was purely Lin Yi himself who said this, everyone would only think that he was bragging, but the black-clothed man was kneeling in front of them, so they couldn't not believe it. Everyone looked at Lin Yi with eyes full of awe. After I seized the cargo ship, I sent it to Saliva Rock Island's Fong family manor. This is the letter of escort signed by Manor Master Fong Biwu. Please examine it, Brother Qi. Lin Yi took out the letter of escort and handed it to Qi Wenhan in front of everyone. Qi Wenhan took it and glanced at it. After confirming, he suddenly laughed and affectionately held Lin Yi's shoulders with both hands, saying, "I'm sorry, Brother Ling. Because of the slanderous words of these 2 bastards, I almost misunderstood you. I have wronged you just now. I represent the entire Heavens Equal Escort Agency and solemnly apologize to you. Brother Qi is too polite. I won't take such a small matter to heart. Lin Yi was slightly stunned, and his eyes couldn't help but show some appreciation. He really hadn't thought that Qi Wenhan would be so straightforward. As the young master of an escort agency, being able to so calmly admit his mistake in front of everyone was a very rare thing. Chapter 43-41. Normally, even if they knew they were in the wrong, they wouldn't lower themselves to apologize for the sake of their pride. This Qi Wenhan was quite the character. Brother Ling is magnanimous, but as the head of the escort agency, I cannot turn a blind eye to such an atrocious incident. Otherwise, I might as well hand over my authority as soon as possible and go home to take care of my children. Qi Wenhan said with a serious expression. Hearing this, everyone's expressions turned cold. Looking at the young master's stance, he was ready to take action. However, this was to be expected. Qi Wenhan had been in charge of the agency for 5 years, and this could be said to be the most serious incident that had ever happened under his command. Not only had they been set up and blackmailed, but the most hateful thing was that the internal escorts had been trying to cover up the truth. If such a terrible incident was not dealt with, then the Heaven's Equal Escort Agency would not be far from destruction. Feeling Qi Wenhan's cold gaze, Li Yanji and Guan Ziyuan felt as if their hearts had fallen into an ice cellar. Ignoring their cold hands and feet, they begged for mercy. Young master, we were wrong, we really were wrong. We only surrendered because of a moment of fear. We really didn't collude with Wei Xiaodong. Please, young master, be merciful and spare our lives. Li Yanji, Guan Ziyuan, you are both veteran permanent escorts. In terms of seniority, you are even older than me. You were already here before I took over. If it wasn't for this incident, even if you were a little slack in your work, I could only turn a blind eye. After all, even if you didn't make a contribution, you would still have worked hard, Qi Wenhan said calmly. However, the calmer he was, the more afraid Li Yanji and Guan Ziyuan became. This was a sign that a storm was coming. On the contrary, if Qi Wenhan were to fly into a rage now, even if he beat them up to vent his anger, he wouldn't be too harsh on them later. No. Young master, we. Li Yanji and Guan Ziyuan still wanted to beg for mercy, but unfortunately, it was too late to say anything at this point. Don't waste your breath begging for mercy. This time, not only did the two of you surrender voluntarily, causing our escort agency to suffer a huge loss, you even inverted the truth and framed your companions, committing such a despicable act of treachery. Do you think I'll spare you two bastards? Qi Wenhan's face flashed with killing intent. Li Guan and the other man were immediately frightened out of their wits. They lost control of their knees and knelt on the ground with a thud. They begged for mercy. Young master, please spare our lives. Young master, please spare my life. Whether or not the two of you can keep your lives is not up to me to decide now. Whether you live or die, I'll leave it all up to Brother Ling to decide. Qi Wenhan then turned his gaze towards Lin Yi, letting Lin Yi, the victim who had been slandered, personally decide. Letting him vent his anger was also a form of apology in disguise. Li Yanji and Guan Ziyuan looked at each other, and their hearts sank. They were done for. If they allowed Ling Yi to decide their life and death, would they still have a way out of this? Brother Qi, you can deal with it yourself, I have no objections. Lin Yi waved his hand dismissively. To be honest, Li Guan and Guan Ziyuan were just insignificant clowns in his eyes. Whether they lived or died, he couldn't be bothered to care. Moreover, this was Qi Wenhan's territory. The other party handed over the power of life and death to Lin Yi as an apology, and Lin Yi's personality had always been one to respect others tenfold. Since the other party knew how to conduct himself, Lin Yi naturally wouldn't do such a thing. Qi Wenhan was stunned for a moment, and then he looked at Lin Yi even more highly. Not only did this person hide his strength, but he was also neither servile nor overbearing when dealing with matters. He was magnanimous, which was rare. If that's the case, then thank you for your understanding, Brother Ling. Qi Wenhan no longer stood on ceremony, and his gaze fell upon the trembling Li Yanji and Guan Ziyuan. In a cold voice, he announced, "From today onwards, my Heaven's Equal Escort Agency will fire Li Yanji and Guan Ziyuan, and put them on the agency's blacklist. This will be a public announcement, and they will be kicked out immediately." As soon as these words were spoken, the crowd couldn't help but whisper amongst themselves. Li Guan and Guan Ziyuan had committed such a treacherous act, so it was only natural that they would be fired. It was likely that they wouldn't be able to receive even a single cent of the remuneration they had accumulated over the past few days. It was already good enough that they weren't required to pay a sky-high price for their losses, let alone talk about remuneration. However, putting them on the agency's blacklist and making a public announcement was a more serious matter. This meant that their misdeeds would be known by all other escorts, and from then on, no escort agency would be willing to hire them. At least, they wouldn't be able to survive in the field of escorts anymore. Li Yanji and Guan Ziyuan looked at each other. After hearing such a punishment, they weren't shocked, but were instead overjoyed. From their point of view, it was already good enough that they were able to keep their lives. Although it was a pity that they wouldn't be able to work as escorts anymore, they were both Golden Core experts after all, so they wouldn't have to worry about having nowhere to go. "Alright, we'll leave now." Seeing that their lives were saved, Li Guan and Guan Ziyuan immediately became much more resolute. After giving Lin Yi a venomous look, they turned around and walked out the door. Lin Yi narrowed his eyes noncommittally, not paying any attention to these two clowns. However, he was a little surprised. Could it be that this Qi Wenhan was really a soft-hearted person? Although such a punishment wasn't out of the question, wasn't it a little too light? The matter didn't end there. Li Guan and Guan Ziyuan bowed as they walked out. Suddenly, Qi Wenhan's cold voice rang out behind them, "Leave? Did I say that you can leave just like that?" As soon as he finished speaking, the guards in front immediately blocked their way. Li Yanji and Guan Ziyuan's hearts sank as they turned their heads stiffly to look at Qi Wenhan. Trembling with fear, they asked, "Young master, do you have any other instructions?" What I said just now was just a punishment for you, as the head of the escort agency, for your inaction as escorts. I haven't even settled the score of the two of you going back on your word and slandering Brother Ling Yi," Qi Wenhan said with a cold smile. As it turned out, he wasn't done. The corner of Lin Yi's mouth instantly curled up. Although he didn't think much of Li Guan and Guan Ziyuan, he was still a little unhappy to let them go just like that. However, it seemed that Qi Wenhan didn't intend to let them go just like that. Then what else do you want?" Li Guan and Guan Ziyuan said in fear. According to the rules of the pugilistic world, there is only one consequence for going back on your word. I won't make things difficult for you, but I won't let you off so easily either, Qi Wenhan said coldly. This time, he didn't just want to give Lin Yi a satisfactory answer. More importantly, he wanted to use this opportunity to make an example out of everyone in the escort agency. Chapter 43-42. 3 Knives and 6 Holes. Li Yanji and Guan Ziyuan's faces were pale. Their legs gave way and they knelt down again. Even the other escorts around them looked at each other in dismay. The young master was serious this time. "Guards, execute them." Qi Wenhan placed his hands behind his back and ordered coldly. The guards of the escort agency looked at each other and did not dare to delay. They hurriedly ran over and tied Li Guan and Guan Ziyuan to a metal frame in the courtyard outside. During the process, Li Guan and Guan Ziyuan could only let the guards tie them up. They did not dare to move or use their true chi to protect themselves. Although the 3 knives and 6 holes were terrifying, with the physique of a golden core expert, they would not die immediately. However, if they resisted and started fighting, they would not be far from death. The so-called 3 knives and 6 holes referred to stabbing the body 3 times, and each stab had to be right through, leaving 6 bloody holes. It was a torture second only to suicide. Many sects and forces on the Heavenly Island still use this punishment. As for the Wayark territorial waters, it was a widely accepted rule of Jianghu. 1 stab, 2 stab, 3 stab. Under the watchful eyes of the crowd, Li Yanji and Guan Ziyuan fainted on the spot, accompanied by the blood-curdling screams of pigs being slaughtered, accompanied by the scalp-numbing sound of the blade piercing into the bones. Although they avoided the absolutely fatal parts such as the heart, the 3 knives and 6 holes were still serious injuries. Even though they were experts of the gold core stage, they were no exception. The entire audience was silent. Under the intimidation of such a cruel punishment, no one dared to whisper to each other. Their gazes towards Qi Wenhan were much more respectful and fearful than before. This was the effect of killing the chicken to warn the monkey. Lin Yi nodded to himself as he watched. Although this incident had caused great losses, it was not necessarily a bad thing for Qi Wenhan. At least from now on, his control over the Heaven's Equal Escort Agency would be much higher than before. This could be considered a blessing in disguise. Throw them out. Qi Wenhan waved his hand with a cold expression. The guards immediately dragged the 2 who had fainted from the pain out like dead pigs and threw them onto the streets outside. It attracted the attention of passers-by. The 2 degenerates had been thrown out, but the rest of the crowd still held their breaths as they waited for Qi Wenhan to continue speaking. Brother Ling, are you interested in coming with me to the Hong Merchant Guild? I must find that old bastard Wei Xiaodong and properly settle this debt. Qi Wenhan said, gnashing his teeth. This time, Wei Xiaodong, the old fox, had set a trap for him and foolishly jumped into it. Not only did he have to pay 300,000 spiritual jades, but he had also lost his prestige and the reputation of the entire Heaven's Equal Escort Agency. There was no way he could swallow this debt. Of course. Lin Yi smiled faintly. Not only was he the person involved, but he was also the one who caught the pirate leader as a witness. It was impossible for him not to go for this kind of thing. Moreover, Wei Xiaodong was such a black-hearted person that he treated the hundreds of lives of the Fong family village on Rock Island like grass. Even if he was Hong Zhong's friend, Lin Yi couldn't just ignore him. All right. Qi Wenhan immediately waved his hand and said, all of you, put down what you are doing. Follow me. Yes. Everyone replied in unison. Compared to going to the Hong Merchant Guild to settle the debt with Wei Xiaodong, everything else was already insignificant. Qi Wenhan was a straightforward person who did what he said. He immediately led a group of people to the Hong Merchant Guild. This group of people was aggressive and immediately attracted a large crowd of onlookers. Previously, when the half-dead Li Yanji and Guan Ziyuan were thrown out, it had already caused an uproar. Now, the news had spread from 1 to 10, and from 10 to 100. Before Qi Wenhan and the rest had even arrived at the Hong Chamber of Commerce, the news had already spread like wildfire. This was exactly what Qi Wenhan wanted. For this kind of matter, the bigger the commotion, the better. At least everyone would know that this matter was not due to the Heaven's Equal Escort Agency's incompetence, but rather the Hong Merchant Guild's Wei Xiaodong. This way, they could also push Wei Xiaodong, the mastermind, to the teeth of the storm and ruin his reputation. The group of people arrived at the Hong Merchant Guild in a grandiose manner. When they stood at the entrance, the surrounding customers hurriedly made way for them. They thought that this group of people was here to seek revenge. This kind of thing was not uncommon in the chaotic Wayark territorial waters, and they were afraid of being caught in the crossfire. Everyone in the Hong Merchant Guild acted as if they were facing a formidable enemy. However, the guest officials who were guarding the place were all alarmed. They stood in front of the crowd with a solemn expression. After all, this time, Chi Wen-han had not only brought a group of escorts, but also a few original infant stage experts who were guarding the escort agency. If a battle broke out with such a lineup, the Hong Merchant Guild might not be able to handle it with just the few guest officials. There was no need for Chi Wen-han to announce anything. A servant had already run to the backyard and reported to Wei Xiaodong, "Manager, this is bad. The Heaven's Equal Escort Agency is here to cause trouble." What? Wei Xiaodong was stunned when he heard this. When he regained his senses, he was shocked. He could not help but mutter to himself, could it be that the matter has been exposed? That was impossible. Those pirates were all experienced veterans. They would not be caught so easily. Furthermore, Chi Wen-han had just sent over 300,000 spirit jades as compensation yesterday. How could they have turned against him in just one day? Although Wei Xiaodong was suspicious, he did not panic. He quickly regained his composure and calmly instructed the servant, "I understand. Invite Chi Wen-han to the guest hall." "Then, where are the others?" the servant asked with a troubled expression. "Of course we will keep them out. Do you think our Hong Merchant Guild is a place where they can come and cause trouble whenever they want? Hurry up and go." Wei Xiaodong glared at the servant. The servant hurriedly nodded and left. A moment later, Wei Xiaodong saw an enraged Chi Wen-han in the guest hall. However, what surprised him was that the servant did not only bring Chi Wen-han in, but 3 people. Of the 2 people who came in with Chi Wen-han, he had seen Lin Yi once before. He knew that he was one of the escorts who had escorted the goods last time. However, when he saw the other person, his eyes flashed. Why was this guy here instead of going to the distant Star Sea region? However, no matter how flustered he was, Wei Xiaodong did not show it on his face. He only glanced at the man in black, as if he had never seen him before. "Shopkeeper, young Master Chi insists on bringing these 2 people in." Honestly speaking, it was already very good of him to be able to persuade so many people outside, but Chi Wen-han insisted on bringing these 2 people in. As a servant, how could he really stop him? Chapter 43-43. "Alright, you can leave now." Wei Xiaodong frowned, then looked at Chi Wen-han with an indifferent expression. He smiled politely and said, "Young Master Chi, what brings you here today?" "What brings you here?" Seeing Wei Xiaodong's calm expression, Chi Wen-han could not help but curse him for being a sly old fox. He pointed at the pirate leader beside him and snorted. "Manager Wei, do you not know this person?" "Oh. Which hero is this? Is he a new escort hired by your Heaven's Equal Escort Agency?" Wei Xiaodong pretended to be surprised and looked at Chi Wen-han with a confused expression. He spread his hands and said, "Young Master Chi, I have never met this person before. How would I know him?" This old fox is still pretending when things have come to this." Chi Wen-han didn't bother wrangling with Wei Xiaodong. He suddenly kicked the pirate boss to the ground and sneered, "Tell this shopkeeper Wei about the dirty things that happened between the 2 of you in front of him. Manager Wei, save me. Quick, save me." The pirate leader had been obedient before, but this time he suddenly became disobedient. He was not only afraid of Lin Yi and Chi Wen-han, but he was also afraid of Wei Xiaodong. If he told him everything again, even if Lin Yi and Chi Wen-han let him go, Wei Xiaodong would definitely not let him go. They were all big shots who could easily mobilize nascent soul stage fighters. He could not afford to offend any of them. "Save me. What a joke. Do I know who you are? You want me to save you for no reason." Wei Xiaodong sneered and didn't even look him in the eye. He curled his lips at Qi Wenhan and said, "Forgive me for speaking bluntly, but young Master Qi, what is the meaning of this? You brought a stranger who popped out of nowhere and barked at my home chamber of commerce. Are you putting on a show for me?" Wei Xiaodong, you. The pirate leader was speechless. He had no choice but to ask Wei Xiaodong for help. But now, not only did Wei Xiaodong not help him, he had also offended both Lin Yi and Qi Wenhan. This time, he really wouldn't even know how he died. Me? Me what? Wei Xiaodong sneered and continued, "Young Master Qi, I had previously entrusted the goods to your Heaven's Equal escort agency. This old man had repeatedly reminded you that these goods were life-saving goods for the Fong family village, yet you still lost them. It was truly heart-wrenching. However, business is business. Since you've already compensated me at the original price, this old man can't say anything more. Besides, the relationship between our two families has always been good. Young Master Qi, who are you trying to put on a show for me by doing this?" Lin Yi stood at the side and watched coldly. Seeing this, he could not help but secretly shake his head. This old fellow's skin was really thick. Although Qi Wenhan wasn't lacking in shrewdness, in front of this cunning old fox, it was likely that he wouldn't be able to gain any advantage. Birds of a feather flock together. Putting aside Wei Xiaodong's depraved character, the fact that he was able to gain the approval of someone like Hong Zhong meant that his own ability was absolutely unquestionable. Shopkeeper Wei. At this point, you and I both know the truth. There's no need to continue pretending, right? What's the point of doing this? Qi Wenhan was not angry. He knew that in front of this old fox, if he couldn't control his anger, it would mean that he had lost. He could only choose to deal with the other party properly. Know the truth. Ha, young Master Qi, your words are even more baffling. Why don't you tell me, how should this old man know the truth? Wei Xiaodong was instantly amused. He sat down calmly, making it clear that he wasn't going to listen to him. If that's the case, then fine. Brother Ling, I can only trouble you to tell our shopkeeper Wei everything about the escort. Qi Wenhan laughed coldly. Lin Yi nodded. He calmly recounted everything from when the escort set off, how the goods were robbed, how he learned the truth from the pirates, and how he managed to snatch the ship back. How about it? Shopkeeper Wei, what else do you have to say? Qi Wenhan stared coldly at Wei Xiaodong. He had received elite training from a young age, so he was never one to get angry easily. But now, he had been tricked by this old fox. Not only had he lost 300,000 spirit jades, but he had also lost the reputation of the escort agency. He could not swallow this anger no matter what. In fact, at this moment, he wanted nothing more than to personally step on this old fox to vent his anger. Unfortunately, reality did not allow it. The other party was the representative of the Hong Chamber of Commerce. No matter how big a mistake he made, it could only be executed by the Hong Chamber of Commerce. If an outsider overstepped his authority, it would be a provocation to the Hong Chamber of Commerce. The consequences would be unthinkable. As the young master of the Equal of Heaven escort agency, Qi Wenhan had to consider the bigger picture. Ha 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 ha. Wei Xiaodong laughed as if he had heard the funniest joke in the world. He pointed at Qi Wenhan and said, "Young Master Qi, this old man has always thought that you were a smart man. I didn't expect you to have such a funny talent. Let's not talk about whether or not this guy is a real pirate. Even if he is, don't you think this kind of trick is child's play, young Master Qi?" Child's play. Qi Wenhan raised his eyebrows. Is it not? Who doesn't know how to play such a childish trick? Do you believe that any child on the street can play the same trick? Wei Xiaodong laughed so hard that he could not catch his breath. Young Master Qi, we are all adults. There is no need to play this kind of child's play. This old man also knows that this kind of thing happened to your escort agency, and you feel bad about it. But there is no need to put on such a show. Do you think there is any meaning to it? The witness and the evidence are conclusive. Shopkeeper Wei, do you still think this is child's play? Qi Wenhan suppressed the anger in his heart and sneered. In that case, I will report this matter today and let the people outside judge it. What do you think, Shopkeeper Wei? Once this kind of thing was exposed, it would definitely be a huge blow to the Hong Consortium, especially to Wei Xiaodong, the mastermind behind it. Even if this old fox was thick-skinned, once the Honging group of the Hong Consortium found out about this, or even the Hong Consortium's headquarters, he would definitely not be able to bear the consequences. Qi Wenhan originally thought that if he said that, even if the other party would not panic so much, at least he would not dare to be so unscrupulous. However, Wei Xiaodong's expression was still that of a sneer, as if he really did not fear a crooked shadow. He did not take his threat seriously at all. Witness. Could it be that young Master Qi is talking about this guy who framed this old man out of nothing? I don't even know where he came from. How can his words be trusted? Do you think this old man will believe him, or will others believe him? Wei Xiaodong shook his head fearlessly and sneered. Moreover, look at his pitiful appearance. It is obvious that he was beaten. Anyone who saw it would know that he confessed under torture. Young Master Qi, how dare you say that he is some kind of witness? Chapter 43-44. You. Qi Wenhan choked on his words, and Lin Yi could only shrug helplessly. He hadn't touched the pirate leader on the way here, and only knocked him out when they arrived at luxuriant Ark City's docks. He didn't expect the other party to use this against him. As for the evidence, forgive this old man for not seeing it. Young Master Qi, where is the evidence you speak of? How come this old man doesn't see it? Wei Xiaodong continued to sneer. The pirate leader being caught by the other party had indeed surprised him, but how could there be any evidence for this kind of thing? For safety's sake, he had secretly contacted these pirates in the far Star Sea realm. He had never even passed a note, so where was the evidence? This is the evidence. Qi Wenhan took out the letter Lin Yi had given him and coldly said, since Shopkeeper Wei doesn't recognize this witness, then let's put it aside for now. The Fong family manor has already signed for it. If Shopkeeper Wei doesn't believe me, I can accompany you to find Manor Lord Fong Bai Wu to verify it. Oh. Wei Xiaodong's eyes flashed as he glanced at the words on the letter. He found that it was indeed Fong Bai Wu's handwriting. He and Fong Bai Wu had known each other for several decades, so he could recognize the other's handwriting. Otherwise, Fong Bai Wu wouldn't have entrusted such an important life-saving resource like the miasma-dissolving pill to him. Wei Xiaodong looked at Lin Yi. Even if the other party didn't say it, he could guess that it was this person's doing. He had snatched the goods from the pirates and actually continued to deliver them to the other party. This was something he hadn't expected. If Wei Xiaodong were in Lin Yi's position, his first thought would be to pocket the goods. After all, this was worth a full 300,000 spirit jades. Who would be so stupid as to give it away? Shopkeeper Wei, you can insist that we found a random person and beat him into a confession. But you can't deny this document, right? Qi Wenhan stared closely at Wei Xiaodong's expression as he spoke. Because he could find Fong Bai Wu to verify, he wasn't afraid that the other party wouldn't admit to it. Moreover, if Wei Xiaodong didn't admit to it, not only would it be useless, but it would also make it seem that he was in the wrong. When that time came, the pressure of public opinion would be even greater. At that time, Wei Xiaodong would only have one outcome, which was that he would not be able to bear the consequences. So what? This only shows that after such a long delay, you barely managed to deliver the goods. You can't accuse this old man of being related to pirates just because of this, right? Wei Xiaodong said calmly. When Qi Wenhan and Lin Yi saw this, they couldn't help but look at each other. This old fox really wasn't easy to deal with. From the moment he entered until now, he hadn't revealed a single flaw. It was not an exaggeration to say that he was a wily old fox. Fine. If that's the case, shouldn't shopkeeper Wei return the 300,000 spiritual jades as compensation to us? Qi Wenhan said in a deep voice. Return it. Wei Xiaodong raised his eyebrows. The corner of his mouth lifted into a mocking smile as he said, business is business. Young Master Qi can't really be treating business as child's play, right? What do you mean? Qi Wenhan's heart immediately sank. It's very simple. Your escort agency delayed for an entire month before delivering the goods to Fong Manor. This caused great damage to the reputation of our Hong Chamber of Commerce. For the sake of our old friendship, this old man hasn't even settled this debt with you. You actually have the nerve to ask for compensation. Wei Xiaodong curled his lips and sneered. In the original contract, it was clearly written in black and white that once something happened, you would have to pay the original price. Young Master Qi can't be thinking of this contract as child's play, right? Every word and sentence made it sound so natural, as if this was how it should be. Even Lin Yi couldn't help but be speechless when he heard this, let alone Qi Wenhan, the person involved. Fine, since you insist on saying this, then I won't argue with you. In the original contract, it was written that if the goods couldn't be delivered, then we would have to pay the original price. However, our escort agency has already delivered the goods. It's just that we're a bit late. Furthermore, Fong Baiwu has no objections. Shopkeeper Wei, you're still thinking of paying the original price. Isn't this a bit too unreasonable? Qi Wenhan said righteously, there is a loss for delay, but the loss isn't too great. Regardless of sentiment or reason, shopkeeper Wei can't hold on to the 300,000 spiritual jades. If these words were to spread, it wouldn't be pleasant to hear. Hearing this, Wei Xiaodong's expression finally changed slightly. Qi Wenhan's threat wasn't baseless. If this matter were to spread, Wei Xiaodong's reputation as a greedy person would be confirmed. It was understandable for businessmen to pursue profit, but for him, a shopkeeper of the Hong's Chamber of Commerce, this would also affect the reputation of the Hong's Chamber of Commerce. If the Hongin team were to find out, they would definitely conduct an in-depth investigation. When that time came, it would be hard to say how the situation would develop. However, since he, Wei Xiaodong, had already swallowed the spiritual jades, it would be harder than ascending to the heavens to get him to spit them out. If Wei Xiaodong really cherished his reputation so much, then he wouldn't have done this kind of shady business. My apologies, this old man has already handed over the 300,000 spiritual jades of your escort agency's compensation to the Central Island headquarters. Now, even if I want to return it, I can't. Young Master Qi, please give up. Wei Xiaodong finally came up with an excuse. What? You? Qi Wenhan almost couldn't catch his breath. He was so angry that his hair stood on end. He had just collected the 300,000 spiritual jades of compensation and sent it over yesterday, and Wei Xiaodong said that he had handed it over to the Central Island headquarters today. Fuck, did the Hong's Chamber of Commerce have such heaven-defying efficiency? Someone, send the guests out. Wei Xiaodong smiled coldly and immediately sent the guests out with tea. He didn't give Qi Wenhan any chance to speak and directly turned to leave. Yes. The servant guarding the door immediately ran over to Qi Wenhan, Lin Yi, and the other two, respectfully inviting them in. Gentlemen, please return. You. Although Qi Wenhan wasn't a simple-minded person, he was so angry that he almost couldn't help but attack. With both witnesses and material evidence, he came with a vengeance to settle the score with Wei Xiaodong. He didn't expect that the other party wouldn't buy it at all. Instead, he had a stomach full of anger. No one could accept such a cruel difference. Good. Very good. Let's go. Although he was unable to restrain his anger, Qi Wenhan didn't lose his mind in the end. He could only suppress the anger in his heart, drag the trembling pirate leader, and lead the way out of the door. After all, this was the Hong's Chamber of Commerce's branch. Once they made a move here, it was equivalent to declaring war with the Hong's Chamber of Commerce. Qitian Escort Agency was a local tyrant that could call the wind and summon the rain in the luxuriant Arc Sea area, but compared to the Hong's Chamber of Commerce, a colossus that could move unhindered across the 5 major Heaven Stage islands, they weren't on the same level at all. If they really went to war, they might be wiped out in minutes. Chapter 43-45. Lin Yi turned to look at Wei Xiaodong's back and frowned. Not only was this man ruthless, but he had also schemed to swallow the life-saving resources of the Fong family on Rock Island. Now that he had been exposed, he had no intention of bowing his head and admitting his mistake. Instead, he had resorted to sophistry. It was rare to see someone this shameless. This kind of scum had completely sunk into a heartless, black-hearted businessman. He was not fit to be friends with someone like Hong Zhong. If Hong Zhong was here, he would definitely cut ties with this man. Lin Yi wanted to make an example out of Wei Xiaodong, but after careful consideration, he followed Qi Wenhan out. He was alone and it was not the right time yet. Wei Xiaodong was not a pushover. Not only was he a nascent soul expert, he was also the representative of the Hong Chamber of Commerce. If he wanted to deal with him, he had to plan carefully and find the perfect opportunity. Seeing Qi Wenhan, Lin Yi, and the others come out, the escorts waiting outside immediately surrounded them and asked about the situation. As for the passers-by who had gathered to watch the commotion, they were all looking forward to it excitedly. They were all here to watch the commotion and were eager to see the Heaven's Equal Escort Agency and the Hong Chamber of Commerce fight. Let's go back first. Qi Wenhan said expressionlessly. Without another word, he walked out. The escorts all looked at each other in dismay. From the looks of it, they must have suffered a loss. The young master was in a fit of anger, so no one dared to ask any questions. They had come in a threatening manner, but in the end, they did not gain anything and could only leave with their tails between their legs. Wei Xiaodong stood on the second floor and looked at the backs of the Heaven's Equal Escort Agency. He smiled coldly and scolded them disdainfully, idiots. Back at the Heaven's Equal Escort Agency. The escorts all looked solemn as they waited for their young master's next order. In the end, Qi Wenhan waved his hand and said, "All of you are dismissed." Disbelief was written all over everyone's faces. Although Qi Wenhan had not been at the helm of the Heaven's Equal Escort Agency for a long time, they were very clear about this young master's style. He was definitely not one to be taken advantage of. 2 years ago, Qi Wenhan had even personally led his men and fought a few battles with the infamous Poison Eye mercenary group, forcing Qing Haonan to retreat. Since then, he no longer deliberately obstructed the escort agency's business. How could such a powerful young master endure such humiliation in silence when encountering such a situation? But since Qi Wenhan said so, no one dared to say anything else. After looking at each other, they nodded and dispersed. Lin Yi originally wanted to find a place to stay. Anyway, he had delivered the darts and captured the pirate leader. He had done what he needed to do. What happened next was Qi Wenhan's business. It wasn't something that a nominal escort like him should worry about. However, Qi Wenhan suddenly called out to him, "Brother Ling, please wait. Not only have you been wronged in this incident, but you have also performed a great service." As the head of the escort agency, it is only right and proper for us to reward you well. I'll get someone to set up a banquet to welcome you. Then I will respectfully accept. Lin Yi nodded in agreement. After all, he had nothing else to do at the moment. Moreover, based on his previous actions, Qi Wenhan was indeed a person worth befriending. There was no harm in getting closer to him. Qi Wenhan immediately brought Lin Yi to the banquet hall that the Heaven's Equal Escort Agency had prepared to welcome their esteemed guests. In the past, those who could dine here were at least prominent figures in the Wayark territorial waters. It was clear to see how much importance they placed on Lin Yi. Uncle Song, go to father's place and report what happened today. Although he doesn't have the time to care about these things now, he should at least know about it. Otherwise, he will be caught unprepared in the future. Along the way, Qi Wenhan instructed the old housekeeper who had been by his side the entire time. He then pointed at the trembling pirate leader and said, "Oh, that's right. Lock this guy up in the dungeon. He is an important witness. Nothing must happen to him." "Yes." The old housekeeper, who was called Uncle Song, nodded and immediately carried the pirate leader away. His figure was erratic. It seemed like he had only taken one step, but in reality, he had already traversed tens of feet. It was clear that he was an expert who was extremely proficient in movement techniques. More importantly, he was a true original infant stage expert. Seeing Lin Yi looking curiously at housekeeper Song's back, Qi Wenhan smiled and explained, "Uncle Song has a very deep relationship with the Heaven's Equal Escort Agency. He was an orphan adopted by my grandfather and is also my father's sworn brother. The reason why the Heaven's Equal Escort Agency was able to establish itself in the chaotic Wayark territorial waters is because of him. Brother Ling, you may not know this, but my Uncle Song's strength is ranked among the top in the entire Wayark territorial waters. No expert dares to look down on him." "I see." Lin Yi nodded. Even an old housekeeper of the Heaven's Equal Escort Agency had such strength. It was clear that their foundation was not weak. No wonder they could establish themselves in the Wayark territorial waters. He then asked curiously, "Then this housekeeper Song's strength should be second to none in the entire Heaven's Equal Escort Agency, right?" That is indeed the case. Although there are many experts in the entire escort agency, the only one who can match up to Uncle Song, or even surpass him, is my father. However, he has been busy preparing for the South Continent Escort Agency's Grand Festival and rarely comes back to the agency. Otherwise, I would definitely recommend Brother Ling to my father. He has always loved to make friends with heroes of the world, especially young heroes like Brother Ling," Qi Wenhan said with a smile. "Brother Qi is too kind." Lin Yi smiled and waved his hand. He also loved to make friends with experts. Since Qi Wenhan's father was the strongest in the Heaven's Equal Escort Agency, Lin Yi was very interested in meeting him. When the two of them arrived at the banquet hall, the food and wine were already prepared. Qi Wenhan personally poured wine for Lin Yi and raised his cup in thanks. "Brother Ling, thank you so much for this matter. You allowed me to see the true face of that old fox Wei Xiaodong. Our escort agency will definitely not work with him in the future. Brother Qi, you are too kind. Actually, I am also responsible for this. This time, the docks of Zhenduan City were locked down and I was unable to return in time, causing the agency to suffer losses." Lin Yi also raised his cup in thanks. No, Brother Ling, you have already done very well. If we really have to blame someone, the biggest mistake is actually on me. I did not know the right person and fell into that old fox's trap, causing us to suffer such losses." Qi Wenhan shook his head, then said, "However, although our agency has lost 300,000 spirit jades this time, it is not as if we have gained nothing. It is a blessing in disguise." "Oh. What do you mean by that?" Lin Yi could not help but ask curiously. It is very simple. Because Brother Ling, you delivered the goods. Qi Wenhan had completely recovered from the shock just now, and his eyes were shining as he spoke. Chapter 43-46. There's no such thing as an airtight wall in this world. This incident will spread throughout the entire luxuriant Arc Sea area in less than 2 days, and even the surrounding sea areas will be spread. At that time, everyone will know that although our Heaven's Equal escort agency was robbed midway, and although we've already paid the compensation, we kept our promise and delivered the goods after retrieving them. Brother Qi means that although we've lost 300,000 spirit jades this time, we've also restored the reputation of our escort agency. Lin Yi's eyes lit up when he heard this. He had to admit that Qi Wenhan's words were indeed a blessing in disguise. He wasn't just comforting himself. That's right. A man can't live without his word. In our escort agency, the most important thing is credibility. As long as we have credibility, we'll have a foothold. Using 300,000 spirit jades to restore the image of our escort agency as a trustworthy person is definitely worth the money. This is something that can't be bought with any amount of spirit jades. In the future, the profit brought by this will be far more than 300,000 spirit jades, but 3 million spirit jades, or even more. Qi Wenhan became more and more excited as he spoke. He even felt that this wasn't a loss at all, but a huge profit. To be able to see a good thing in a bad situation, Brother Qi is indeed an optimistic and open-minded person. It's the fortune of our Heaven's Equal escort agency to have a manager like you. Lin Yi couldn't help but smile. He wasn't just joking. In fact, there were very few people with this kind of character. Moreover, to a certain extent, no matter what this kind of person did, they would be closer to success than others. I'm just trying to find joy in the midst of misery. Since things have come to this, I can only use this as an excuse to comfort myself. Qi Wenhan smiled broadly and said, Brother Ling. I'm really sorry, I didn't expect you to have hidden your strength all this time. I was blind. If I had known this earlier, I would have let you be in charge of leading the team instead of giving it to people like Li Yanji and Guan Ziyuan. Then, this wouldn't have happened. We haven't known each other for long, so it's normal that we're not familiar with each other. Moreover, Brother Qi, if you let me, a newcomer, take charge of such an important escort mission right from the start, I wouldn't be able to convince the people. It may not be able to convince the masses, and the result is hard to say. Lin Yi waved his hand. This was the truth. With Li and Guan's temperament, even if Qi Wenhan said that Lin Yi was the one in charge, the two of them would definitely agree on the surface but oppose on the inside. Once they encountered this kind of situation, Lin Yi and Huang Xiaotao would have to be on guard against these two people scheming behind their backs. For safety's sake, they wouldn't necessarily recklessly fight to the death with the pirates. That's right, Brother Ling. I'm now inviting you to officially join our Heaven's Equal escort agency. What do you think? Qi Wenhan's spirits were suddenly roused. The first time he saw Lin Yi, he was already shocked by Lin Yi's strength, even though he was teaming up with Huang Xiaotao. However, to be able to injure Old Kong, who was at the peak of the early nascent soul stage, was already an impressive achievement. But now, the strength that Lin Yi displayed was even more powerful. He easily killed 3 pirates at the peak of the late gold core stage. Furthermore, the pirate leader was so frightened that he didn't even dare to have the slightest thought of resisting. It could be seen how strong the deterrence was. For the Heaven's Equal escort agency, a person like Lin Yi was definitely a talent that was hard to find even with a lantern in hand. They had to try their best to rope him in. Merely being an escort in name was far from enough. If he could go one step further and become a permanent escort, then he would truly be one of their own. Seeing Lin Yi hesitate, as if wanting to shake his head and refuse, Qi Wenhan hurriedly interrupted and added, "Brother Ling, I'm not purely trying to rope you in, but would like to ask you to do me a favor." "A favor?" Lin Yi couldn't help but be stunned. He couldn't possibly be a permanent escort here, but if it was just helping to do something, then it was a different story. "That's right, I've just said that my father is busy preparing for the South Continent's escort agency convention. Brother Ling, you're powerful, and can fight enemies above your level, so I hope you can represent our Heaven's Equal escort agency and participate in this convention." Qi Wenhan said with a burning gaze. "What's that?" Lin Yi asked with a frown. When he first heard about it, he thought it was an industry summit between the various escort agencies in the South Continent, but listening to Qi Wenhan's words, there was actually a competition. Every 3 years, all the escort agencies in the sea near the South Continent will gather together to hold an escort agency convention. From there, the 5 great escort agencies will be chosen. According to this ranking, the corresponding range of escorts and the distribution of benefits will be divided. Of course, the higher the ranking, the greater the benefits. Qi Wenhan explained to Lin Yi. Where there were people, there would be Jianghu, and the relationship between escort agencies and Jianghu was the most inseparable among all the industries. Therefore, to some extent, the Triennial Escort Agency Convention of the South Continent could almost be understood as the martial arts circle convention that often appeared in storytellers. 5 great escort agencies. Lin Yi was slightly stunned and couldn't help but ask, then the ranking of the Heaven's Equal Escort Agency is, 3 years ago, our Heaven's Equal Escort Agency barely made it into one of the 5 great escort agencies for the first time. Of course, we're ranked last, the 5th great escort agency. Qi Wenhan laughed bitterly, then said with anticipation, "However, if Brother Ling can join this year, I believe that your ranking will definitely rise a little. As for the remuneration and treatment, as long as Brother Ling says it, we'll definitely find a way to satisfy you. In short, we'll definitely satisfy you. How about it? This." Lin Yi hesitated for a moment. The other party's conditions could be said to be high, but he didn't intend to stay in the South Continent for long, so he could only tactfully refuse. "Brother Qi, to be honest, I came to the luxuriant Arc Sea area this time with a sect mission. I've never thought of staying here for a long time. If I join an escort agency, I'm afraid it's really not possible." "Oh. Brother Ling even has a sect mission." Qi Wenhan was stunned when he heard this. Seeing that Lin Yi's expression didn't seem to be fake, he asked, "What's the mission? Have you completed it?" "Not yet." Lin Yi shook his head with a bitter smile. From the moment he arrived at the luxuriant Arc Sea area, he and Huang Xiaotao had been entangled with trouble. Then, after being robbed midway, they went to the True Segment City and Lufeng Forest. Even the mission that was one of the original intentions of this trip hadn't been completed from beginning to end, let alone making any progress. "In that case, if it's convenient, Brother Ling might as well tell me your mission. I can help you think of a way. Our Heaven's Equal Escort Agency doesn't dare to say how strong we are, but at least in the sea areas near the South Continent, we definitely have a lot of connections. Who knows, maybe we can help." Qi Wenhan immediately took the initiative to suggest. Lin Yi's heart moved when he heard this. This was really a way. Now, he was alone here and unfamiliar with this place. If he wanted to rely on his own strength to hunt down Wu Baoliang, it would be like looking for a needle in a haystack. Chapter 43-47. If there was no external help, it was very likely that they wouldn't even be able to see his shadow, let alone catch him. The Heaven's Equal Escort Agency was a local bully in the Wayark waters. Moreover, as an escort agency, their connections and information were absolutely not to be underestimated. If Chi Wenhan could help, they could indeed get twice the result with half the effort. Since Brother Chi has said so, I won't stand on ceremony. Here's the thing. I came to the Wayark waters this time to hunt down a wanted criminal who escaped from the North Island. His name is Wu Bao Liang, Lin Yi immediately told Chi Wenhan. Wu Bao Liang. Chi Wenhan raised his eyebrows and said thoughtfully, I haven't heard of him. But since he escaped from the North Island, it's not surprising that he is unknown here. Brother Ling, you can tell me in detail. Well, this person's strength was at the peak of the late stage of Gold Core. He was an extremely famous evil cultivator in the North Island. He specialized in sucking the blood essence of virgin girls for cultivation. More than 300 people were killed by him, which caused public resentment. When the law enforcement hall of the North Island was ready to take action against him, he escaped. According to the latest information from the law enforcement hall, the last place Wu Bao Liang appeared was in the Wayark waters. Lin Yi explained the situation. Specialized in sucking the blood essence of virgin girls, and more than 300 people. Even Chi Wenhan was speechless when he heard such a shocking thing. The Wayark waters were chaotic, but there were not many people who committed such a heinous crime. This is just a rough estimate. If we count the missing women nearby, the real number should be far above this. Lin Yi shook his head and sighed. The reason why he took this task at the beginning, in addition to specifically looking at the Wayark waters as the task location, was that he felt that this evil cultivator was too heartless and had to be killed. There's actually such a scumbag who specializes in harming women. He's as evil as the Qing father and son. Chi Wenhan was also indignant and said, Brother Ling, don't worry. I'll find someone to inquire about this Wu Bao Liang. I'll let you know as soon as there's news. That's great. Thank you, Brother Chi. However, while asking people to look for Wu Bao Liang, can you help me find out the whereabouts of another person? Lin Yi quickly asked. Another person? No problem. Gathering information is what our escort agency is best at. Brother Ling, who do you want to find out? Just tell me. Chi Wenhan promised. Alright, the person I want to inquire about is called Lu Bianren, a senior brother of our Clear Cloud Pavilion on the North Island. He has always taken good care of me. Previously, he came out to the Verdant Arc Sea with a group of people to complete a mission. I lost contact with the others after that, and I haven't heard from them since. Lin Yi said with a sigh. This was the main reason why he decided to come to the Verdant Arc territorial waters. Regardless of whether he could find it in the end, he had to work hard. No problem. If he appears in a public place here, we will definitely be able to get wind of it. Brother Ling, you don't have to worry. Chi Wenhan hurriedly agreed. Regarding the South Continent Escort Agency's grand gathering, Brother Ling, you should really consider it carefully. It won't take up too much of your time. Who knows, the event might end before you even finish your task. Alright, I'll think about it. Lin Yi nodded. If it was purely to help him participate in the South Continent Escort Agency's event and not to join the security chief, it was not a bad idea. He would just take it as a favor in return for gathering information. While the two of them were talking, there was a sudden commotion outside the escort agency. It was noisy, and it seemed like many people had arrived. Could it be that my father has returned? Chi Wenhan couldn't help but wonder. His father had recently been busy preparing for the South Continent Escort Agency's Grand Festival, which was the most important event for the escort agency. Normally, he wouldn't come back, but this time, the escort agency had been tricked by Wei Xiaodong. After all, it wasn't a small matter, and it was possible that he would come back personally to deal with it. However, just as Chi Wenhan and Lin Yi were looking at each other, a guard suddenly ran in and said with a panicked expression, "Something has happened, young master." That fellow Chinkitian has brought people to block the door. Chinkitian. Did that brat take the wrong medicine? How dare he bring people to block the door of our Equal Heaven escort agency? Chi Wen-han was stunned. Although the Poison Eye mercenary band was a troublemaker, and many people's expressions changed at the mention of their name, Chi Wen-han didn't take it to heart. Especially after he had led people to fight a few times with them 2 years ago. Chinkitian was no match for him, and had been beaten to a pulp several times. As a result, every time young Master Ching saw him, Chi Wen-han couldn't help but feel apprehensive and weak in the knees. And if Chinkitian's father, Ching Haonan, came out, then his own father would also come out personally. What was there to be afraid of? Chi Wen-han was still confused, but Lin Yi, who was beside him, knew full well that after being taught a lesson by him at the docks, this young Master Ching must have gone back to get reinforcements, and was ready to come back to get back at him. Brother Ling, continue drinking here. I'll go out and take a look, and I'll be back soon. Chi Wen-han immediately stood up and said. No matter what, Chinkitian was the young master of the Poison Eye mercenary band. If he didn't come out personally, the other people in the escort agency would have a hard time dealing with him. Brother Chi, I'd better go with you. If I'm not wrong, this guy should be coming for me. Lin Yi smiled and shook his head. Ah. Chi Wen-han couldn't help but be confused. Then, he suddenly slapped his head and said, That's right, Brother Ling. You and Old Kong worked together to injure him. With that guy's narrow-minded nature, he definitely won't let you off easily. But after such a long time, he's coming to block the door for such a small matter. This guy must be sick in the head. That might not be the case. Actually, there's something I didn't have time to tell Brother Chi. Just now, before I returned to the agency, I fought with them again at the docks. Lin Yi said, pinching his nose. What? Then Brother Ling, you're not injured, are you? That scum Chinkitian only knows how to bully others. Every day, he brings Old Kong everywhere to show off his power. A dignified early-stage nascent soul expert has become his dog. But this dog is very powerful. Brother Ling, if you meet them again in the future, you'd better bear with it. Chi Wen-han hurriedly warned. There's no need to avoid them. Actually, the dog that Brother Chi mentioned was crippled by me just now. Lin Yi shrugged and spread out his hands. Chi Wen-han suddenly had a strange look on his face. He looked at Lin Yi from head to toe again, his eyes looking like he was looking at a monster. Before this, he had already thought highly of Lin Yi's strength, but he didn't think that he had still greatly underestimated him. He couldn't help but ask, Forgive me for asking, but Brother Ling, you're still a Golden Core expert, right? That's right, the middle stage of Golden Core. Lin Yi nodded calmly. There was no need to hide this point. It could be seen as soon as they fought. Chapter 43-48. Chi Wen-han choked for a moment. He also believed that Lin Yi was in the mid-gold core stage. After all, he had the same feeling before. But a mid-gold core stage expert was actually able to cripple Old Kong, a peak early nascent soul stage expert. What was wrong with this world? Had he gone mad, or had the world gone mad? No wonder that brat was so angry. If it was me, I would also be angry. Chi Wen-han finally said with a speechless grin. Having an enemy like Lin Yi, no matter who it was, their heart would tremble with fear. With Chinkitian's courage, if he didn't eliminate this threat as soon as possible, he probably wouldn't even be able to sleep. The two of them arrived at the entrance of the escort agency. At this moment, there was already a large circle of people outside. Both ends of the street were blocked by passers-by who had come to watch the show. In the middle of the door stood Chinkitian, and behind him was a group of experts from the Poison Eye mercenary group. Each of them had an imposing manner, and were all ruthless characters who killed without blinking an eye. Lin Yi glanced at them. Among this group of experts from the Poison Eye mercenary group, there were actually 3 that he couldn't see through. If he wasn't mistaken, they should be nascent soul stage experts. Even Chen Qitian could mobilize 3 nascent soul stage experts. This kind of strength was not bad. It was no wonder that the Poison Eye mercenary group was able to wreak havoc in the Weiwan Sea. Lin Yi was a little surprised that the other party had mobilized such a large force. But after thinking about it, he understood. Before, Old Kong, a peak early nascent soul stage expert, was crippled by him. If he didn't bring so many experts to protect him, how would Chen Qitian dare to block the door? Seeing Qi Wenhan and Lin Yi come out, especially when he saw Lin Yi, Chen Qitian subconsciously shrunk his head. The ferocious scene on the pier had truly frightened him. It was not an exaggeration to say that he was scared witless. It had left a shadow in his heart. But when he saw Lin Yi's mocking gaze, Chen Qitian suddenly stiffened his neck. He couldn't help but become angry out of humiliation. With a rude and unreasonable expression, he pointed at Lin Yi and said, "Men, capture this guy for me." An order was given. The group of experts behind him immediately released their auras, causing a commotion in the surroundings. As for the 3 nascent soul stage experts, they all had a solemn expression. Although the opponent was a golden core stage expert, they had learned their lesson from Old Kong. They didn't dare to lower their guard and were prepared to work together to take down Lin Yi. Courting death. Lin Yi's eyes were also filled with killing intent. He had let Chen Qitian off at the docks earlier because he didn't want the Poison Eye mercenary group to fall out with him. But now, Chen Qitian didn't know what was good for him. If that was the case, he wouldn't mind going on a killing spree. Lin Yi didn't want to find trouble for himself, but he was never afraid of trouble. Even if the other side was a local tyrant who would turn pale at the mention of his name, as long as he found the right opportunity to use a super alchemic fire true chi bomb, the experts of the Poison Eye mercenary band would definitely die. For a time, the situation suddenly became tense. No matter who made the slightest move, there would immediately be a bloody storm. This kind of thing happened in the Verdant Arc Sea. But he was already used to it. However, under everyone's gazes, Qi Wenhan calmly walked until he was 1 step away from Chen Qitian. Indifferently, he said, "Capture someone." If you have the ability to catch one for me to see. As long as you dare to touch him, I dare to make all of you unable to return. Do you want to make this bet with me, young Master Ching? As soon as he finished speaking, the group of escorts from the Heaven's Equal Escort Agency suddenly released their auras. There was no lack of nascent soul experts among them. After all, this was the headquarters of the Equal of Heaven Escort Agency. You! Don't be too arrogant. Chen Qitian immediately choked. He was so frightened by Qi Wenhan's aggressive gaze that he took a step back in front of everyone. He couldn't help but curse in his heart. Fuck, I'm the one who's here to seek revenge. Why does it feel like this guy's temper is even bigger than mine? Unbeknownst to him, Qi Wenhan had been suppressing a bellyful of anger at Wei Xiaodong's place, and just happened to have nowhere to vent it. This fellow had come looking for trouble. Who could he blame? Arrogant. You, young Master Ching, brought so many people to block the entrance of my Heaven's Equal Escort Agency. No matter how I look at it, you are the arrogant one, aren't you? Qi Wenhan laughed coldly. Previously at the docks, this Ling Yi from your escort agency injured Elder Kong. What's wrong with me bringing people to capture the real culprit? If you do something wrong, you have to admit it. Your Heaven's Equal Escort Agency has always been righteous and righteous. I don't think you will protect your own people, right? Some things are better said than done. It's not easy for your escort agency to build up a reputation. You won't destroy your own foundation for an insignificant person, right? Qingqian said in a strange tone. Every time they crossed swords, Qingqian had been suppressed by Qi Wenhan's men. Even now, he still had lingering fears. Today, in front of Qi Wenhan, he didn't dare to be forceful and could only speak in this manner. You are weak and your skills are inferior. Who can you blame for suffering losses? Why are you talking to me about the real culprit? The sun must have risen from the west today. Since when did your dignified Poison Eye mercenary band start to reason with others? Qi Wenhan was instantly amused. The surrounding crowd laughed along with him. The Poison Eye mercenary band had wreaked havoc everywhere. Almost everyone in Velvet Arc City had been threatened and persecuted by them. Yet, they still had the nerve to talk reason. Qingqian's face immediately turned red. He angrily shouted at the surrounding crowd, "What are you laughing at? If you laugh again, I'll cut off your tongues. You dare to laugh at my Poison Eye mercenary band? Are you all tired of living?" Qingqian's vicious and threatening gaze swept over them. The surrounding crowd immediately stopped laughing. Although they were angry, they didn't dare to speak out, afraid that they would be targeted by him. Qi Wenhan, I advise you to think carefully before you speak. Do you think it's worth it to make the entire Poison Eye mercenary band your enemy for such an insignificant person? Qingqian threatened. Ha 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 ha. Qi Wenhan couldn't help but throw his head back and laugh. He looked at Qingqian as if he were looking at an idiot and said, "Young Master Qing, did you not take your medicine today? Or did you take too much medicine? Why are you saying such stupid things? Our two families have fought at least 8 out of 10 times, big or small. Don't tell me you think that this is not being enemies, but a harmonious family. You." Qingqian was so angry he almost spat out blood. Qi Wenhan was practically his nemesis. He couldn't beat him in a fight, and he couldn't even win an argument. Every time he ran into this guy, nothing good would come out of it. It had been like this in the past, and it was still like this today. He couldn't beat him in a fight, and he couldn't win an argument either. What could he do? For a moment, Qingqian was stuck between a rock and a hard place. He could only glare at Lin Yi with hatred. However, he was afraid of Qi Wenhan and didn't dare to make a move. He couldn't help but curse inwardly. If he had known this would happen, he would have chosen a different location. Although he had brought many experts with him today, this was still the Heaven's Equal Escort Agency's headquarters. If they really fought, they would definitely be at a disadvantage. Chapter 43-49. At this moment, an expert from the Poison Eye mercenary group suddenly came over and whispered a few words. Qingqian's eyes immediately lit up. Qi Wenhan, I advise you to consider this carefully. I've also heard about this Ling Yi. Not only did he lose his bodyguard, but he also defected to the pirates and escaped. Why do you still want to protect this kind of scum? Why don't you just give him to me, and I will help you clean up the mess? That way, you can save some effort. How about it? Qingqian suddenly changed his tone to one of negotiation. He had long heard about the matter of Ling Yi defecting to the pirates. It was precisely because of this that he dared to add insult to injury. It was just that he had been too arrogant just now and had been pushed around by Qi Wenhan. With the reminder of his subordinate, he could use this as an excuse to get out of the situation. Who told you that Ling Yi defected to the pirates? Qi Wenhan could not help but laugh. Wei Arc City is only such a big place. Even the slightest movement would not be able to escape the eyes and ears of the Poison Eye mercenary group. You don't have to hide it anymore, it's unnecessary. Qingqian said proudly. Is that so? Then I can only regretfully tell you that not only did Ling Yi not defect to the pirates, he even single-handedly snatched the goods back from the pirates. Young Master Ching, have you not heard? It seems that the eyes and ears of the Poison Eye mercenary group are only a so-so. Qi Wenhan sneered. WH. What? Qing Qitian was instantly dumbfounded. Just now, when he was scared away by Lin Yi at the pier, he had hurried back to get reinforcements. Naturally, he did not know what had happened to the Heaven's Equal Escort Agency. How did a chicken turn into a phoenix in the blink of an eye? Not only was this Ling Yi not the scum that the Heaven's Equal Escort Agency had to deal with, but he had instead become a hero. I'll tell you one last time. Ling Yi is a member of the Heaven's Equal Escort Agency, and he is the person that we value the most. If you dare to touch a single hair on his head, it will be a declaration of war against the Heaven's Equal Escort Agency. This is a declaration of war against our Equal Heaven Escort Agency. Whether or not you can bear the consequences, it's up to you. Qi Wenhan said in front of everyone. His words were stern and righteous. Lin Yi nodded slightly as he watched the scene. They were trying to rope him in. However, this action of the other party had indeed given him a layer of protection, and he had to remember this kindness. Have you thought this through? Could it be that you really want to start another war with our Poison Eye mercenary group for such an insignificant fellow? Qing Qitian couldn't help but stomp his foot in exasperation. Scram! Qi Wenhan couldn't even be bothered to look at him. Putting aside the fact that he valued Lin Yi so much, he was still counting on Lin Yi to help him participate in the escort agency's event. Qing Qitian's threat was nothing in his eyes. Under the gazes of the crowd, Qing Qitian's expression flickered between clear and dark, alternating between green and white. With a face full of resentment, he looked at Lin Yi, then looked at Qi Wenhan. In the end, he still did not dare to start a fight here. He could only fiercely say, "Just you wait and see," and dejectedly leave with his people. Qi Wenhan and Lin Yi looked at each other and smiled as they watched Qing Qitian and the others leave. This fellow was indeed a clown who couldn't be brought up to the public. Brother Qi, many thanks. Lin Yi sincerely thanked Qi Wenhan. He really didn't expect that, in the face of Qing Qitian's overbearing attitude, Ling Chen would spare no effort to protect him. This was no small favor. What are you saying? Brother Ling, no matter what, you are still a member of our Heaven's Equal Escort Agency. Moreover, you are a meritorious official. Our escort agency doesn't dare to boast about other things, but to our own people, we definitely have nothing to say. Qi Wenhan patted his chest. He pulled Lin Yi back into the banquet hall and said, "Come, let's continue drinking. Don't let that bastard spoil your mood." "Ha, all right." Lin Yi laughed heartily. The more he interacted with this young master, the more he realized that their temperaments were compatible. It was hard to find a confidant in this world, and there weren't many friends that could enter Lin Yi's eyes. As Lin Yi and Qi Wenhan drank and chatted, on the other side, Qing Qitian, who had returned from the Heaven's Equal Escort Agency in defeat, was suppressing a bellyful of anger. He wanted to kill someone. "Bar, come over here." Qing Qitian pointed at one of the Golden Core perfected experts behind him. Now that old Kong was seriously injured and unconscious, he could only change to a temporary follower. "Yes, young Master Qing, what orders do you have?" This person's name was Chen Zixio, but the members of the Poison Eye mercenary band usually called him Bar. "Regarding that Ling Yi, as well as what happened at the Heaven's Equal Escort Agency today, go and find out for me. Remember, don't miss out on even a single detail, or I will break your dog legs." Qing Qitian said as he pinched his chin. The reason why he was rebuffed today was because he did not have good information. If he had known that Ling Yi was a meritorious official and not a traitor, he would not have brought people to the Heaven's Equal Escort Agency at all. that was purely asking for trouble. Yes, young Master Ching, please wait for me. I will go now. Chen Zixio nodded and left. An hour later, Chen Zixio returned and reported everything that had happened at the Heavens Equal Escort Agency to Qin Ketian in detail. These things had already spread like wildfire, so it was not difficult to find out. Moreover, with the eyes and ears of the Poison Eye mercenary band, it was as easy as flipping one's hand if they wanted to find out anything in Weiwan City. What? This fake news was all made up by those two cowards, Li Yanji and Guan Ziyuan, in order to avoid responsibility. So sinister and shameless, this young master is quite fond of them. After hearing this, Qin Ketian had a look of surprise on his face. He then asked, then where are the two of them now? Have they been killed by Qi Wenhan? No, the two of them were stabbed 3 times and 6 times, and were thrown out by the Heavens Equal Escort Agency. They should still be lying in the rubbish heap, but I don't know if they're dead or alive, Chen Zixio replied. Forget it if they're dead. If they're still alive, find someone to pick them up and keep them with the Poison Eye mercenary band. Who knows, they might be of some use in the future. Qin Ketian's eyes rolled as he instructed. Yes. Chen Zixio nodded and immediately said, there's another piece of news. It's about the conflict between the Heavens Equal Escort Agency and the Hong Chamber of Commerce. Although the rumors on the streets are not very accurate, this matter has already spread like wildfire. This little one speculates that this matter should be basically true. Young Master Ching, you might be interested in it. Oh. Tell me about it. Qin Ketian was instantly interested. According to the rumors on the streets, the reason why the Heavens Equal Escort Agency's escorts were robbed was purely because Wei Xiaodong of the Hong Chamber of Commerce had set up a trap. He had trapped Qi Wenhan and the entire Heavens Equal Escort Agency together. Not long ago, Qi Wenhan brought his men to find trouble with Wei Xiaodong. In the end, he was sent back by Wei Xiaodong with just a few words and was given the cold shoulder, Chen Zixio reported. There's such a thing. Qin Ketian's mouth twitched. This sounded exactly the same as what happened to him just now. R655. Chapter 4350. But this time, the unlucky one was not Qin Ketian, but the arrogant Qi Wenhan. No wonder he was so angry just now. He couldn't help but laugh. Ha 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 ha, good, Qi Wenhan has his day. Wei Xiaodong is a wonderful person. In front of Qi Wenhan, Qin Ketian had never been able to gain any advantage. He was not Qi Wenhan's opponent. No matter how arrogant and conceited he was, he had no choice but to admit this. But looking at it this way, everything had its vanquisher. In front of that old fox Wei Xiaodong, the arrogant Qi Wenhan was also helpless. Let's go to the Hong Chamber of Commerce. Qin Ketian decided immediately. Yes, yes. But young Master Qing, why are we going to the Hong Chamber of Commerce? Do we need to bring people? Chen Zixio quickly replied. Bring people. Bring what people? We are not going to stand up for Qi Wenhan. Why would we bring people to the Hong Chamber of Commerce? Qin Ketian curled his lips. Then we are. Chen Zixio couldn't keep up with Qin Ketian's thoughts. You're so stupid. Qin Ketian kicked Chen Zixio's face in front of everyone. He then pretended to be profound and said, the enemy of my enemy is my friend. This move of mine is called killing with a borrowed knife. Yes, yes, young Master Qing is brilliant. Chen Zixio quickly smiled apologetically and climbed up from the ground. But in his heart, he was disdainful. You want to deal with an old fox like Wei Xiaodong with your little IQ? You won't even know if you get betrayed. You'll probably be happy to help others earn money. Killing with a borrowed knife. Without further ado, Qin Ketian brought Chen Zixio to the Hong Chamber of Commerce and requested to see Wei Xiaodong. After all, he was the young master of the Poison Eye mercenary group and was the most troublesome local bully in the area. The shop assistant did not dare to slight him and respectfully invited the two of them to the guest hall. Oh! Young Master Qing, what a rare guest. After a while, Wei Xiaodong came out with a smile. Ha! Shopkeeper Wei, long time no see. How have you been? Qin Ketian smiled and cupped his hands. While smiling and exchanging greetings, Wei Xiaodong was puzzled. Why did this guy suddenly come to see him? In the Verdant Arc territorial waters, the Hong merchant group was considered an external force. They had always been neutral and minded their own business with the other forces. Even a local tyrant like the Poison Eye mercenary group didn't dare to have any ideas about it. Therefore, they didn't have any business dealings with each other, but they also didn't have any enmity with each other. Basically, they were just acquaintances. May I know why young Master Qing has come to my Hong Merchant Association this time? After some small talk, Wei Xiaodong went straight to the point. Actually, it's nothing much. It's just that word has spread outside that the Equal Heaven Escort Agency has been extorted by shopkeeper Wei. That's why I'm here to pay you a visit, Qin Ketian answered without hiding anything. Even Chen Zixio, who was behind him, couldn't help but put his hand to his forehead when he heard this answer, let alone Wei Xiaodong, the person involved. Was there something wrong with this guy's brain? Since he wasn't here to pick a fight, how could he speak like that in front of the other party? What do you mean by that, young Master Qing? As expected, Wei Xiaodong's expression darkened. He said unpredictably, "This is the Equal Heaven Escort Agency's breach of contract. I've been doing everything according to the contract." These rumors were spread by the Equal Heaven Escort Agency themselves. How could you believe them, young Master Qing? Could it be that you're here to stand up for the Equal Heaven Escort Agency? That can't be right. As far as I know, young Master Qing and Qi Wenhan have always been enemies. They've always been sworn enemies. The grudge between the Equal Heaven Escort Agency and the Poison Eye mercenary group, especially the grudge between Qi Wenhan and Qin Ketian. Any random local on the streets of Verdant Arc City could talk about it for 3 days and 3 nights. This was a well-known fact. Shopkeeper Wei is right. Qi Wenhan and I are sworn enemies. Moreover, we hate each other to the bone. If he doesn't die, then I'll live. Qing Jutian laughed heartily. Wei Xiaodong did not know whether to laugh or cry. If he doesn't die, then you live. Aren't you the one who has the last laugh? Everyone knows that you, young Master Qing, will always suffer when you meet Qi Wenhan. Is this confidence or stupidity? Then, young Master Qing, what are you here for this time? Wei Xiaodong's expression softened a little. The enemy of my enemy is my friend. Even someone like Qin Ketian understood this principle. Naturally, he understood it as well. It's very simple. I want to join forces with shopkeeper Wei to think of a way to trick the Equal Heaven Escort Agency again. Qin Ketian said excitedly. Every time he had a conflict with the Equal Heaven Escort Agency, he had always suffered losses at the hands of Qi Wenhan. It was impossible to fight them head-on. However, this incident had given him some inspiration. If he wanted to deal with the Equal Heaven Escort Agency, Qi Wenhan, and that Ling Yi, there was no need for him to fight them head-on. He could totally be like Wei Xiaodong and plot behind their backs. Oh! Wei Xiaodong's eyes instantly lit up. His interest was piqued. He immediately said, Come. Young Master Qing, please come into the inner hall. Let's discuss this properly. As matters stood, Wei Xiaodong's desire to deal with the Heaven's Equal Escort Agency was even greater than Qin Ketian's. Even though he had managed to evade them for the time being, the other party still had a witness in their hands. To him, this was quite a hidden danger. If this witness were to fall into the hands of the Honging group, he would be in big trouble. It was a pity that although the Hong Merchant Association had quite a bit of influence in the Wayark territorial waters, they were only doing business. This included the guest experts who were stationed here. Their main job was to protect the Hong Merchant Association. Even as the shopkeeper of the branch, Wei Xiaodong could not easily order them around. It was even more impossible for him to make them do things that could not see the light of day. Moreover, Wei Xiaodong himself was too big of a target. Every move he made was watched. If he wanted to do something personally, it would be very difficult. He did not expect Qing Ketian to actually come to him. This young Master Qing had the Poison Eye mercenary group behind him. They were definitely the local tyrant. If he wanted to do something behind his back, they were the perfect partners. The two of them did not have much of a relationship to begin with. But after this, they actually felt like they were like-minded and regretted not meeting each other earlier. They could not wait to enter the inner hall to discuss in detail. From afternoon to night, they planned for a full 6 hours. Only then did the two of them walk out with smiles on their faces. Wei Xiaodong personally sent them off, and Qing Ketian returned satisfied. In the next few days, Lin Yi originally thought that after the previous incident, whether it was Wei Xiaodong's side or Qing Ketian's side, there should be follow-up actions. However, unexpectedly, these few days were calm and peaceful. There were no signs of anything unusual at all. Since the other party did not come looking for trouble, Lin Yi could not possibly take the initiative to find them by himself. Thus, he was happy to be idle. R655. Chapter 43-51. After all, the gathering of the escort agencies of the South Continent was about to begin, and Qi Wenhan still needed his help. Even if Lin Yi wanted to go on an escort mission, he would not agree to it as the young master. As a result, Lin Yi stayed in the most luxurious guest room in the Equal of Heaven's escort agency. All he had to do every day was wait for Qi Wenhan's people to gather information while he cultivated leisurely. Occasionally, he would think about Wang Xinyan and Huang Xiaotao. He wondered how they were doing right now. In the vast ocean, a colossal ship rode through the wind and waves. It moved extremely quickly, but it was as stable as Mount Tai. Standing on it was as stable as land. More importantly, sitting on such a colossal ship was fearless of the wind, waves, and sea beasts. It was truly a leviathan on the ocean. This kind of huge treasure ship had always been the exclusive symbol of the super forces. It was impossible for ordinary sects and forces to have it, and they were not qualified to have it. This kind of strategic existence in the sea was not something that could be bought with a sky-high price of spiritual jades. Even if one had the financial resources to buy it, they would not have any stock to sell to you. The symbol of the Academy of Cultivation was carved on the flagship of the ship. The two words on it were particularly eye-catching, Morning Star. At this moment, two beautiful girls were sitting on the bow of the ship. After the originally fierce sea breeze passed through the protective shield of the huge treasure ship, it became a gentle breeze that blew their long hair. The gentle afterglow of the setting sun shone on them, leaving two beautiful silhouettes on the deck. It seemed real and illusory at the same time, making people feel intoxicated. On the huge ship were all the instructors and disciples of Morning Star Academy, including the 3 pillars of the mountain establishment period led by Ling Yuanqing. However, for the sake of safety, regular instructors and disciples were strictly restricted. They were not allowed to move around on their own unless there were special circumstances. Apart from a few members of the upper echelon of the academy and the staff who controlled the ship, there were only 2 people who could move about freely on the deck, Wang Xinyan and Huang Xiaotao. Not only were they direct disciples of the divine nun of the East Sea, but their talent was also extremely shocking. More importantly, their talent was extremely heaven-defying. The entire Morning Star Academy saw them as the future hope. Their master, the divine nun of the Eastern Sea, doted on them. Ling Yuanqing, the dean, also doted on them. Compared to other people, they naturally had more privileges. On this treasured ship, the two of them could go anywhere they wanted at any time. However, if other disciples, or even instructors of the academy dared to wander around when the treasured ship was moving, they wouldn't dare to do so. He would definitely be arrested by the disciplinary squad at any time. At best, he would be confined for 3 years. At worst, he would be expelled from the academy. There was no room for negotiation. So there's so much going on between you and Lin Yi, Lil Sis Tao. Xinyan exclaimed as she looked at the beautiful sunset. Her heart was filled with longing. The time she spent with Lin Yi was too short. They were forced to separate not long after they met, so she didn't have time to listen to Lin Yi's experiences on Heaven Stage Island. Over the past few days, whenever she had time, she would ask Huang Xiaotao to tell her about Lin Yi's matters. She had finally finished her story today. Yes, Sister Xan Yen. Why don't you tell me about Lin Yi's life in the secular world? Huang Xiaotao asked expectantly. Xinyan wanted to know what Lin Yi had experienced on Sky Tier Island, but she wanted to know as well. She wanted to know what Lin Yi had experienced in the secular world. Lin Yi was a mysterious person. The more she knew about him, the more she couldn't see through him. The more she was curious about him, the more she felt that there was an endless story about him. It was fascinating. Okay, the first time I met Lin Yi was on a train. Oh, a train is a form of transportation in the secular world. I didn't know him at that time, but he left a deep impression on me. Wang Xinyan said, the corner of her mouth unconsciously curving into a beautiful smile. Now that she recalled the situation, a warm feeling welled up in her heart. It was full of memories. Why? Huang Xiaotao couldn't help but ask curiously. Because on the train, there were 3 people who saw that Lin Yi was dressed like a country bumpkin, and he looked harmless. They thought that he was easy to trick, so they teamed up and set up a scam. They pretended that Lin Yi only had to give them 60,000, and they would give him the prize ring that was worth 80,000. Actually, the prize ring was fake, Wang Xinyan said with a smile. Ah, there are scammers like this in the secular world. If it was someone who likes to take advantage of others, they would really fall for it. But Lin Yi isn't that kind of person. He definitely wouldn't pay attention to them, Huang Xiaotao said with a face full of certainty. Huang Xiaotao said with a face of certainty. Even priceless treasures like the infant ginseng and star ink milk wouldn't make Lin Yi lose his mind, let alone this insignificant amount of money from the common world. You guessed wrongly. Lin Yi really did agree to it. I even reminded him secretly, but he acted as if he didn't notice and really gave the money to them. Wang Xinyan smiled slightly. Ah. No way. Huang Xiaotao was dumbfounded. It's true. It's just that after Lin Yi gave them the money, he took it back from them without anyone noticing. He even took an extra 30,000. Those 3 people were kept in the dark by Lin Yi the whole time. Maybe they still don't understand why they didn't have a single cent left after they got what they wanted, Wang Xinyan said with a smile. She couldn't help but smile every time she thought about it. She'd been worried for Lin Yi at the time, but she didn't know that he was so skilled and daring. He'd been fooling those 3 scammers from the beginning to the end. They deserved to be fooled by Lin Yi. I knew Lin Yi wouldn't fall for it. Xinyan sis, your first meeting with Lin Yi was so fun. Huang Xiaotao laughed so hard that she couldn't stand straight. She was a shy person, but perhaps it was because she shared the same interests as Wang Xinyan, but she was a lot more lively and cheerful when they were alone. Yeah. Now that I think about it, it's really unbelievable. Sometimes, when fate comes, it can change a person's fate. Wang Xinyan sighed. I was just a normal girl. I never dreamed that I could cultivate, let alone come to Heaventear Island. It's like a dream, me too. If I hadn't met Lin Yi back then, I don't even know what I'd be like right now. I might have died on Mount Hutsai long ago, or I might still be struggling alone, drowning in the pain of my disfigurement. Huang Xiaotao sighed. Both of them had met Lin Yi, and their fates had changed abruptly. From this point of view, the two of them were quite similar. Xiaotao. A woman's voice came from behind them. It was the two girls' master, the divine nun of the Eastern Sea. Chapter 43-52. Master, Wang Xinyan and Huang Xiaotao stood up in a hurry and greeted her. The divine nun of the East Sea nodded with a smile. She held the two girls in each hand and felt rather happy inside. The two of them had been together all the time, calling each other sister and sister. They were so close that even she found it rather strange as their master. However, she did not think too much about it. After all, it was good for senior and junior sisters to be close. As their master, she could not ask for more. She felt that it must be because Wang Xinyan was too lonely when she trained with her in the academy. After all, she only had one direct disciple, and she didn't interact with outsiders. She didn't even have someone to talk to, and that was why she was so warm to Huang Xiaotao. The two girls were perfect companions. In a while, the ship will dock at Velvet City. Do you want to go for a walk, or do you want to stay in the inn and cultivate? Asked the divine nun of the East Sea. The reason why she asked this was because the two girls had no interest in going out at all during their previous stop, which was the second stop of the Morning Star Academy, the Devilish Sea Realm. They just stayed in the inn every day and talked about Lin Yi. The divine nun of the East Sea felt that the two girls were rather quiet. If they did not want to go out, she might as well arrange for a quieter place for them to stay. Velvet City. Master, I want to go for a walk when the time comes. Huang Xiaotao's eyes immediately lit up. Wang Xinyan also rejoiced and nodded. Unlike the Devilish Sea Realm, they should be able to see the Lin Yi they yearned for again if nothing went wrong. Obviously, he would not stay indoors like he did in Devilish Cold City. Huang Xiaotao's intuition told her that Lin Yi must have returned to Weiwan City by now because he was coming back to hunt down Wu Baoliang, and more importantly, because he was coming back to find clues about Lu Bianren. Wang Xinyan had also heard about these things from her, and she was filled with anticipation at this moment. Oh. Then I'll find two people to protect you. I heard it's rather chaotic here. The divine nun of the East Sea nodded in some surprise. There were many powerful people in the academy. In order to protect her two precious disciples, she could easily find 20 people, let alone 2. It's fine, Shifu, we won't be walking around anyway, we're just looking around Velvet City. There are people from the academy everywhere, we won't run into any trouble. Xinyan and Xiaotao said in unison. The two of them wanted to go out for a walk purely to see Lin Yi secretly, and if there was someone following them closely, the two of them would be in trouble. Then how could they secretly date? Then, all right. But you have to be careful. If any blind people try to target you, you don't have to worry about anything. The divine nun of the East Sea hesitated before agreeing in the end. After all, just like what the two girls had said, Wayark City would be under martial law, and there would be experts from the Morning Star Academy everywhere. Even if an average person had 100 guts, they would not dare to cause trouble at this time. Besides, his two disciples were not weak, especially Wang Xinyan, who was at the early nascent soul stage. If they really fought, she would be able to defeat opponents who were at a higher level than her. Ordinary people would not be a match for her. Your disciple understands. Thank you, Master. Wang Xinyan and Huang Xiaotao immediately beamed with joy. They wrapped their arms around the divine nun of the East Sea as they eagerly awaited Lin Yi's figure in Velvet Arc City. 2 hours later. The huge ship finally docked in Velvet Arc City slowly. The many experts of the Morning Star Academy swarmed out and cordoned off the dock. The people who had gathered there a long time ago did not complain. Instead, they erupted into thunderous cheers. They had waited for a very long time. What's going on outside? Lin Yi had just finished cultivating for the day. As soon as he opened the door to his room for a breather, he heard the thunderous cheers outside. He could not help but be stunned. Walking into the courtyard, he could see the bustling scene of people crowding outside through the door. It was exactly the same as what had happened in Jinduan City. Brother Ling, you've come out to join in the fun too. Qi Wenhan walked over when he saw Lin Yi. Join in the fun. Join in the fun for what? Lin Yi was confused. Recently, he had been living a very simple life. He basically cultivated and consolidated his strength. At most, he would come out to see if the agency had heard anything about Wu Baoliang and Lu Bianren. He had not taken a single step out of the agency. He was basically cut off from the outside world, so he obviously had no idea what had happened. Brother Ling, you still don't know. The Morning Star Academy of the East Continent is here. They've come out to open the disciple selection. They have already stopped at the Jinduan Sea and the Cold Devil Sea. Our Wei Arc Sea is the third stop. Qi Wenhan explained. The Morning Star Academy is here. Lin Yi only understood when he heard this. No wonder the scene outside was like this. After he understood, he could not hide the excitement on his face. Didn't that mean that he would be able to see Wang Xinyan and Huang Xiaotao again soon? When they parted ways in Jinduan City, Lin Yi thought that he would have to wait at least a few years to see the two girls again. He did not expect to see them again after just a month. This was a pleasant surprise. Lin Yi had always been calm and collected. Qi Wenhan had never seen him so excited before. Seeing this, he asked curiously, Brother Ling, why are you so excited? Are you preparing to participate in the selection? The East Continent was publicly recognized as the strongest of the 5 islands in heaven rank. Anyone with a bit of ambition would try their best to squeeze their way there, and the Academy selection was the best opportunity. Every time it happened, it would cause a sensation. Qi Wenhan did not find it strange that Lin Yi wanted to participate in the selection at all. Even he himself had been there before, but he was not chosen. Now that he had accepted the responsibility of managing the escort agency, he gave up on that thought. He was just here to watch the show. Of course not. I'm a disciple of the 3 pavilions in the north. After I finish my mission, I still have to return to the north. It's just that this is a rare opportunity, so I'm going to watch the show. Lin Yi smiled and shook his head. Just to watch the show. Qi Wenhan let out a sigh of relief. He was actually a little afraid that Lin Yi would be chosen by the Morning Star Academy. With his great potential to challenge those of a higher level, it was not impossible. At that time, there would be no one to help him participate in the South Continent Escort Agency Festival. Qi Wenhan paused, then reminded him, you can watch the show, but Brother Ling, you must remember, when the staff of the Academy gives you the sign-up, you must not accept it. Otherwise, you will have to participate in the selection test. Once you pass the test, you will have no choice but to go to the Morning Star Academy. They will not give you any chance to back out. Lin Yi couldn't help but be taken aback. Wasn't it common knowledge that you couldn't just pick up a sign-up card? Only an outsider like him didn't know that, and he'd gotten himself into a pit by accident. Chapter 43-53. Thinking back to the situation at that time, Lin Yi did not know whether to laugh or cry. Although there were no flashes of swords, it was the most dangerous and urgent situation he had encountered since coming to the South Continent. However, this outcome was not too bad. Huang Xiaotao had become the disciple of the divine nun of the Eastern Sea, and became the disciple that everyone envied. Moreover, she was with Wang Xinyan, so at least she would not be in danger. Just as Lin Yi was thinking about how to stay calm and avoid other people's eyes and ears to meet with the two women, Wei Xiaodong and Qin Ketian had started planning again in the Hong Merchant Association. Shopkeeper Wei, now that the Morning Star Academy is here, the time you mentioned has come. You should tell me the specifics of the plan now. Ling Yi, that little brat, has been hiding in the Equal Heaven Escort Agency for many days now, Qin Ketian said impatiently. Previously, when he and Wei Xiaodong had hit it off, he had added oil to the fire, and blamed Ling Yi for the failure of the robbery incident. If Ling Yi had not interfered, the robbery plan would have been foolproof, and Qi Wenhan would not have discovered it. Perhaps he had to thank Wei Xiaodong for being magnanimous and not pursuing the Equal Heaven Escort Agency's responsibility after receiving the compensation. As such, Wei Xiaodong naturally hated Lin Yi as well. After all, this was the truth. If not for Lin Yi, the pirate leader would not have been captured, and Qi Wenhan would not have known the truth behind the scenes. Letting Wei Xiaodong deal with Ling Yi was what Qin Ketian meant by killing with a borrowed knife. He knew that Ling Yi had the full protection of the Equal Heaven Escort Agency, and he could not do anything by himself. Only by borrowing Wei Xiaodong's power would he have a chance to avenge himself. However, with Wei Xiaodong's deep foresight, how could he be used by an idiot like Qin Ketian? It would be the other way around, especially with his status. Even if he decided to deal with Lin Yi, he would definitely not do it himself. Qing Jingtian's little abacus. Wei Xiaodong saw it clearly, but he did not expose it. Firstly, he really hated Ling Yi for ruining his plans and wanted to get rid of him as soon as possible. Secondly, he wanted to use this opportunity to get closer to the Poison Eye mercenary group. If he wanted to do any shady business in the future, they would be the best partner for him to work with. Young Master Qing, don't be impatient. The Morning Star Academy is here, but I have yet to see my distant cousin. He is the key person to deal with Ling Yi. Wei Xiaodong said calmly. Distant cousin. Qin Ketian couldn't help but stare blankly for a moment before asking, Shopkeeper Wei's distant cousin, could he be someone from the Morning Star Academy? That's right, he's not just a simple disciple in the Morning Star Academy. With his help, just a few words from him would be enough to make Ling Yi suffer a fate worse than death. Wei Xiaodong sneered. So powerful. Shopkeeper Wei, what exactly does your cousin do in the Morning Star Academy? Qin Ketian was even more curious. Purchasing deacon, Wei Xiaodong said lightly as he personally poured tea for Qing Jutian. Pooh! Qin Ketian had just taken a sip when he spurted it out on the spot. He grimaced in pain and said, I thought he was some big shot, but he's just a purchasing deacon. What kind of big shot is he? Young Master Qing might not know, but don't think that he's just a purchasing deacon. He's in charge of all the purchasing matters of the Morning Star Academy. The amount of power he has isn't something an ordinary person can imagine. Wei Xiaodong said with a profound expression. But even if that's the case, what does a purchasing deacon have to do with dealing with Ling Yi? Qin Ketian still couldn't understand. Young Master Qing, don't worry. Although he's a purchasing deacon and has nothing to do with dealing with Ling Yi, he has the authority to speak to the higher-ups of the academy. As long as he says a few words, even if Lin Yi doesn't die, he will. Wei Xiaodong said confidently. Oh. If that's the case, will he help? Qing Ketian was still a little worried. Distant cousins were usually extremely unreliable. They were often extremely unreliable. When there was nothing going on, they could still befriend each other. However, if they had something to ask of them, they might just turn their backs on them. In this day and age, even blood brothers had to be wary of each other, let alone distant relatives who had nothing to do with each other. Of course, with my relationship with him, this matter is not a problem. Wei Xiaodong was extremely confident. With his experience, of course he wouldn't be so stupid as to rely on such a simple relationship between distant relatives. But this distant relative was different. The two of them were closely connected and had a common interest. Before coming to the South Continent's Weiarc territorial waters to be the branch manager, Wei Xiaodong was the deputy manager of the East Continent's Gaolin territorial waters Hong Family Chamber of Commerce. Furthermore, he had been in this position for a whole 5 years. It was also in these 5 years that he gradually drifted apart from Hong Zhong and the rest, and gradually walked towards depravity. The key person who led him to depravity was this distant cousin who worked as a purchasing deacon in the Morning Star Academy. One of them was in charge of purchasing, while the other was in charge of selling. After a chance encounter, they immediately discovered the huge benefits hidden within. The Morning Star Academy was such a transcendent force. Just the monthly purchases alone was an absolutely shocking astronomical figure, and the two of them were standing right on top of this astronomical figure. After the two of them got in touch, all of the Morning Star Academy's purchasing requirements fell on the Hong Family Chamber of Commerce. This did not seem inappropriate to outsiders. After all, the Hong Family Chamber of Commerce was a well-known Ding-ranked chamber of commerce, and its reputation was unquestionable. However, what outsiders did not know was that during the monthly purchases, this purchasing deacon would always quote a high price to the Morning Star Academy, while Wei Xiaodong would quote a low price to the Hong Family Chamber of Commerce. The difference between the two of them was so huge that it would definitely make anyone jealous. Not only that, while Wei Xiaodong was stuffing his own pockets, not only was he not suspected by the Hong Family Chamber of Commerce, but because he had solidified the long-term deal with the Morning Star Academy, he was recognized by the higher-ups in the headquarters. After all, this was a bulk purchase. Even if he quoted a low price, the Hong Family Chamber of Commerce would only suffer a reduction in profits, and would not suffer any losses. As long as they could make a small profit with a quick turnover, this in itself was a rare contribution. Moreover, if they could take this opportunity to build a good relationship with a transcendent force like the Morning Star Academy, it would actually be of great benefit to the Hong Family Chamber of Commerce. This was something that could not be bought with spiritual jades. On one hand, he was able to obtain a large amount of spiritual jades, and on the other hand, he was able to make a so-called heroic contribution to the Hong Family Chamber of Commerce. In these 5 years, Wei Xiaodong's days could only be described as a fish in water. He had even fantasized about directly being promoted from the branch's assistant shopkeeper to the branch's shopkeeper position. However, Wei Xiaodong's wish did not come true in the end. He was promoted to the branch's shopkeeper position, but not in the East Continent's Gaolin Sea, but in the South Continent's Weiarc Sea. To be continued. You're tuning into the LoveLore Library YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.